I think I'm in the right spot. Oh, CD. Yes, yes, that's right.
Okay, everybody, it's time to start the party.
Yes,
Why do we not keep a gavel in here?
yes.
Water bottle. You don't want this purse. Good morning, Kat.
Here we are.
Well, I don't need it now.
Right.
We got everybody. How's everybody doing this morning? Hope everybody is as warm as Commissioner Kennard.
That's right.
All right, I won't.
I don't have anything, so I'm going to go ahead and find a flag, and we are going to.
Flag behind you.
There's one here, there's one here. So let's start out with an invocation and saying the pledge. And I will stand and say a brief invocation. If you will please stand with me. And then Commissioner Kennard will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Kind and gracious Heavenly Father, we love you. We come before you and we ask for your guidance today at the strategic planning meeting. We ask that we can work together, have mutual respect, and let our thoughts be your thoughts as we move this county forward. Lord, you know the needs that we have before us, and you know the hearts and will of our people. I pray that each of us will represent them very well as we work together here today. Give us your guidance and your grace. We love you. In the name of Jesus, we pray. Amen.
Amen. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, well, welcome here to the 2026 Citrus County Strategic Planning Retreat. Today is an opportunity for us to reflect, evaluate, and set clear targets that will guide our actions as we continue serving our community. I am truly grateful to be here with all of you and thankful for the strong collaboration among county staff, this Board of County Commissioners, and our valued community partners. Our focus this year is success through collaboration. And throughout today's conversations, I'm confident that we'll see just how much we can accomplish when we're all working together. Thank you again for being here. And now I'd like to introduce to you our County Administrator, Steve Howard, and he will recap our accomplishments and identify focuses for the upcoming year. Steve?
Thank you. I'm going to start with a video, if we can roll that, please. First, I want to thank staff for all the hard work they did throughout the last few days to get this set up. Also, I'm going to get into, I'm not going to get into a slide today, but I look back and recapped as I'm doing all these presentations this year. We did three hurricanes, one tornado in a little over 36 months, and I would have never thought we almost got snow here. I think we may have got snow. And then I woke up on Monday morning and had frozen pipes, and I thought, am I in Michigan? I thought I was in Citrus County. But with that, it's great to be here today. It's exciting, all the great things that are happening across this county. We had a great Citizens Academy yesterday as well. But with that, I want to roll this film if we can. Henry Ford once said, "Coming together is a beginning. Keeping together is progress. Working together is success." Over the past 3 years as your county administrator, we've embraced that philosophy as Team Citrus, working side by side to reach new milestones. Through the collaboration between the Board of County Commissioners, our hardworking staff, and dedicated community, we've accomplished what many once thought impossible. As we look ahead to 2026, our focus remains clear: success through collaboration. Thank you to everyone who helped make the past year such a success. I'd like to recap our achievements as a reminder of how we continue to move Citrus forward together. Suggest a first target for action, replace the speaker.
Thanks, Steve.
We got through it. So again, a lot of great things. Again, I always talk about Citrus. What I love about the name of Citrus, and I'm gonna give Miles credit for this, is we underline us in it. It's never about I. It's not about me. It's about us as a community moving Citrus County forward together. With that, I'm gonna start my presentation. Yes, please. First of all, today marks our 4th strategic retreat to plan our shared vision for Citrus County. We began this journey. We established clear annual themes to frame our work. I'm excited to announce this year's theme is success through collaboration. What you will see today is how a shared vision has translated into measurable results. And if you're around me enough and staff and they know all the great things we're doing together as Team Citrus, what gets measured gets done. And if you look up here, I often tell the story as I walk the halls of this government week 1 and 2. I asked staff, when was the last time you were recognized by the National Association of Counties? They went and grabbed a plaque. It was in the 1990s for utilizing a fax machine, which was at that point cutting edge stuff. And I said that stops today with all the great things Team Citrus is doing. So we are really one of the winningest counties now in the state of Florida. And not only did we score all these wins together collectively, the bond ratings have not only been reaffirmed, we've actually increased our credit score. The GFOA Distinguished Budget Presentation Award and Triple Crown Award with our partners at the Clerk's Office. These represent the highest form of recognition in public finance. And again, 24 NACO awards. These recognitions are not one-off successes, but reflect a strong mission and vision. And we can't not talk about this, nationally recognized strategy. The only county in Florida to receive this award, and only one of 3 in the United States. Few counties can demonstrate this level of recognized best practice. None of this happens without the Board of County Commissioners' support and the dedication of our greatest assets, our employees. Our progress is organized by 4 pillars of sustainable community: personal livability, environmental stewardship, community building, and economic opportunity. If you fail in one of these components, your success will not occur. The performance report. Setting priorities only matter if we measure progress. What gets measured gets done. These retreats' performance reports are how we hold ourselves accountable for delivering on these 4 pillars. In 2023, the year of Make It Happen, built a foundation through process improvement, strategic planning, and renewed accountability. We completed 94 milestones in 2023. 2024, soaring to new heights, advanced transformative projects, expanded public engagement, and strengthened our financial position. We completed 173 milestones in 2024. In 2025, we truly charted our course, guided by a clear mission, a bold vision, and our core values: integrity, service, excellence, and innovation. With refined processes and strong interdepartmental coordination, we achieved over 300 milestones, our highest performing year in the cycle. When viewed over time, the scale of our performance is clear. 568 plus total completed activity across 84 projects, 500 plus activities underway across 98 ongoing projects. The volume of coordinated work is unprecedented, historical for Citrus County. And the win column, Team Citrus, again, it's about us. It's not about me. It's not about I, but it's about us working together as a community. This is almost like when you're trying to buy a car or a mortgage. It's the print's so small. We had to, because we would have had lots and lots of slides for this. But along the way, this reflects not only quantity, but also quality. Meaningful improvements to livability, safety, and opportunity for our residents. Improved our ISO fire rating, increasing community protection, and lowering insurance costs for residents. Implemented new environmental safeguards and took action to protect Citrus County's natural resources. Delivered visible improvements across service delivery, infrastructure, and community safety. Expanded operational capacity with 39 new public safety positions. Secured funding to rehabilitate more than 180 miles of local roads. Received nearly $95 million and growing in grants and appropriations for strategic initiatives and major infrastructure projects. And right there, you can everybody can see this online. The public, we've talked about this previously, but a great opportunity to take your camera and click that. But again, all the milestones, accomplishments, a great quote from Ronald Reagan, "Trust but verify." It's all there. I had a great conversation over the weekend with a citizen wanting to know about the animal shelter, for example, and I said, let me show you all the milestones and accomplishments, what we inherited under my administration at a 0% document, architectural, all these different milestones that we did as Team Citrus. It's all there. Next slide. I don't know if we have, I'm going to go back. Do we have the award-winning transparency slide?
Let me see.
Might just take one moment.
I want to pull up one slide for the public.
Made some last minute updates, so give me one moment, I'll pull it up. Just get Catherine real quick, she'll have it.
We can get back to that. We'll get back to it. We'll pull the slide up later on for the public, but award-winning transparency. It's not something you talk about. Transparency isn't just a value, it's a practice. Just as important as what we do is how we openly share it. Transparency starts with access. Every initiative, status, performance measure is publicly available on the Citrus County homepage, and that's important, I think, for the public. It's on page 1. It's not on page 300. It's not buried, but you literally click projects, and everything is there in real time. Targets achieved in 2025. And I have a packet for you. We actually have tabbed it. So again, I'm just going to go through these quickly. But every one of these key initiatives that were accomplished, every milestone, every action step has been validated, and it's in your packet today, and it's available to the public. Beautify Citrus, State Road 44 beautification, County Road 491 expansion, the 5-year financial analysis, Parks Nature Trail connector, new pickleball courts, space needs analysis, and again, over 301 milestones achieved in 2025. The Cardinal Corridor Alignment Study funding, the Holder Force Main Extension funding pre-construction, the Inverness Airport Business Park pre-construction, Modernize a Comprehensive Plan, funding, procurement, monument signage pre-construction, Parks and Recreation Master Plan funding. And ongoing projects in 2026. Each of your targets for action still in progress are positioned for continued progress and success in 2026. Monument and wayfinding signage strengthens our community's identity and supports economic development, tourism, and civic pride. We're awaiting final engineered design plans, which will allow us to begin the permitting process. And 21 milestones achieved with that project to date. This project expands recreational opportunities and improves quality of life for residents in Beverly Hills and surrounding communities. We have stayed on track by phasing improvements responsibly and aligning funding with community priorities. Our focus now is securing remaining funds and finalizing the restroom scope so construction can move forward. We've achieved 21 milestones with this project to date. Crystal River Airport runway extension. This runway extension strengthens aviation safety and positions the airport for future demand. The FAA is currently performing their formal environmental assessment. Once approvals are secured, we will move forward into permitting and mitigation. 29 milestones accomplished to date with this project. Inverness Airport Business Park Phase 2. Completion of the Inverness Airport Business Park will support job creation and economic development in Citrus County. Construction is active with gopher tortoise identification currently in progress. Once that is complete, site grading can begin. 26 milestones accomplished with this project to date. Animal Service Facility. The facility represents a major investment in humane care and modernized operations for animal services. We have received final design plans and are concluding the pre-construction phase. The next step is bringing bids before the board for approval. 23 milestones accomplished to date for this project. Discretionary sales tax. This effort evaluates how a discretionary sales tax could support long-term county needs. The North Florida Land Trust and Trust for Public Lands are preparing final reports for the board's consideration. If the board chooses to move forward with formal adoption, the next step would be submission to the state. 9 milestones accomplished with this project to date. Corridor Alignment Study, County Road 491. This study builds on recent improvements along County Road 491 and looks ahead to future growth. We are gathering data and evaluating alignment options with safety and efficiency in mind. The goal is to create a clear roadmap for future design and funding decisions. 6 milestones accomplished with this project to date. Corridor Alignment Study, Cardinal. The study helps us understand future transportation needs along the Cardinal Corridor. We're actively collecting right-of-way and survey data to inform the analysis that will feed into a draft study that guides future planning and investment. 5 milestones accomplished to date, this project. Holder Industrial Park. This project delivers critical utility infrastructure to support economic development. Construction is well underway with pressure testing and restoration activities in progress. We are finalizing remaining components to bring this system online. 11 milestones accomplished with this project to date. Judicial and government expansion. The expansion addresses growing space needs for courts and county operations, a project often talked about but not delivered on. The project is in pre-construction with plans nearing completion. One key milestone for this project is the relocation of Commissioner and Legal Services to the Inverness Government Center. I am happy to report that the City of Inverness approved the proposed lease at their last meeting, which will come forward to the board at a future date. 12 milestones accomplished with this project to date. Modernized comprehensive plan. Modernizing the comprehensive plan ensures policies match today's growth realities. This work aligns land use, infrastructure, and physical planning. It creates clarity for residents, staff, and the development community. 11 milestones accomplished with this project to date. And that's just a quick recap, a lot of great stuff, and I applaud Team Citrus for all the great work that's going on across this county. We've got two really great presentations we want to present to you next that highlight innovative best practices that position Citrus County as the leader in local government.
Got a clicker right there.
Right there, okay. Good morning.
Good morning.
Happy to be here. David Farmer for the record. And I shouldn't be correcting county managers, but it's actually 3 presentations.
That is true. He gave us a bonus one, so that's good.
Yeah, well, I didn't know I was going to wind up presenting it to you today, but it's just a short few slides.
I do want to compliment Dave because I have no boundaries, so I like to call him on weekends, after hours, at nighttime about projects and things like that. But I will tell you, there's a lot of counties around the state of Florida that are getting very jealous of all this great stuff that we're doing in this community, and this is a result of all the good stuff that Dave's doing. He's given us what I call a lot of bonus stuff, so we're doing things that are just amazing that he's doing with us with this technology that he has, a proprietary software, but it's exciting with what's going to happen for the future of this county as a result of all the great stuff this board's doing with your support. You're laying the foundation for the future, so with that, I'll let you continue on.
Very good, thank you. So today what I'm presenting to you is an update and almost a mirror image of what I presented to you last January, not at this hearing, but at a regular hearing, where we presented the results of the first interactive growth model. This is an update, a full update of the model that started in August when we received the data, and as it takes a few months to work through the data, we got it finished, issued this report in late November, and was finally able to get here now. Hopefully you've had a chance to peruse the report, and if you have any questions about it, even after today's workshop, I'm more than happy to answer any questions. Buzz there. So my partner and I are both licensed professional engineers, both certified professional planners with decades and decades of planning experience, and we bring all that to you today. We only work for governments like you. We do not work for the development community or anyone associated with the development community. So we want you to know when we say something, it's because it's what we think is in your best interests. We can skip through the agenda. So I wanted to refresh your memory on the interactive growth model. It is a very powerful set of algorithms designed by Dr. Paul Van Buskirk. When the model is loaded with good data and calibrated properly, it demonstrates when and where, right? Unlike any other model who might tell you the gross population, this spatially tells us how your population is going to grow by neighborhood, by project, and it can also anticipate new projects that are coming along and tell you what all those, not just that project, when the collective impact of all these projects is what can be detected and then used by your various departments such as utilities, parks, fire, law enforcement, etc. What makes us different than Bieber is that Bieber uses, they decide what the population is going to be in 2050, and then they work backwards from that. We begin with looking at your build-out potential. So we've looked at every single parcel at least twice, probably 10 times, and measured what we think is really going to happen with that piece of property, and that gives us our upper limit. And once we understand the upper limit, now we can't project your growth above what your real potential is, and then what our model does is it connects your present-day data to that future data in the process. Again, it's all spatial, and for what it's worth, our work is considered professionally acceptable. I know it sounds kind of boring. That's a designation issued by the state of Florida. I'm not saying no one else has that, but I'm here to testify that I know of no other company that has that designation. We worked very hard to get that from the state. So I told you we're spatial. We have 350 zones, and that's a lot of things to talk about. So what we like to do is categorize them. And so we put them as neatly as we could into your commission districts so that then each of you would know, well, how is my district growing or changing, or what are the demographics or whatnot. So this is an update of the slide that we showed a year ago. This slide is nice because you can see how each of the districts are going, and I know this is of no surprise. You live here, you understand this. What I do want to point out, if you look very carefully, there's a column at the far right-hand side of each one of the districts, and it's hatched, and you know, I truthfully put in there that was August of 2025, and that's when we received the data. As we worked through the data a little bit more, though, and also the benefit of us working for multiple departments is we see data from a lot of different sources, and we can use them and cross-pollinate. So, in fact, your county engineer and head of utilities, Mr. Cheek, provided us with meter data because we're working on a separate project helping with your water use permitting. And that water meter data was very interesting in that it showed I had meters where the data did not show houses yet because there's a lag, there's a natural lag in the data from when things get recorded and it hits the GIS and everything. So we're able to marry those two data sets to get a better idea. And so I'm here to tell you, I think, well, it says August, that was probably close to the end of May. So I don't want to say you could double each one of those bar charts, but you could to get an idea of where we ended the year. Of course, we won't know that until for a few more months when we update the data again. Sorry for the wall of text. So the purpose of doing build-out has another good reason, and that's when we look at the statistical growth, the halfway point, the easy point, we call that the inflection point. That's where up until the inflection, you're growing at an increasing rate, maybe slowly, but you're picking up speed, and then you hit a small linear phase, and then you're still growing, but you're increasing at a decreasing rate. And where that transitions from increasing to increasing and decreasing is called the inflection point. You're going to hit that, we think, right around 2035 or so. And so again, you're going to keep growing, but that will be the beginning of maybe it's slowing down a little bit. You probably won't feel it until about 2040. Again, barring some large recession or something like that. We don't forecast recessions. And again, of no surprise, District 3 is growing at twice the rate of the other districts. That's largely because of its available supply of platted lots. And you have a bunch of them. There's a slide coming up. You have 53,600 vacant lots still. And that means, I talked with home builders in your Pine Ridge and Citrus Springs area, and they're doing a wonderful job of marketing things, and you're feeling that let me get to the slide here. Hit that last bullet point. So it is very important as we grow, though, to make sure that we have enough land in the right location, because you can have enough land, but if it's all in one piece of the county, well, that's not going to work, because we need fire stations and parks and those sorts of things all around the county and equally distributed. So it's important to keep an eye on those things as we continue to develop, and vacant land, of course, gets gobbled up. So this is a table showing your number of housing units. And so your build out is about 205,000, 204,000, somewhere in there. It's impossible to lay down your actual build out. There's a lot of intuition we use, because we're not forecasting what you're going to do. We're forecasting 10, 15 boards from now and what they may or may not do and how attitudes may or may not change. We try to stay very true to our existing comprehensive plan future land uses, but we're also realists, and we know that a 100-acre farm 30, 40 years from now, probably in the well-developed areas, are probably not likely to stay that way. It's probably going to be rezoned, future land use changed, or whatnot. And so that's been incorporated into this. Between now, or between last year and 2030, you're going to add about 8,000, maybe 8,500 homes. This map is real. There's nothing fictitious about it. These are real doorknobs that showed up. This was, again, not just the parcel data, but we married the water meter data with that, which really gave us a really good picture of what's happening. And so you can see, again, what you already know, but the major pressures in the north and the south, and we think that you're going to start seeing some infill there too in the middle area, and even up to the western part of where Citrus Springs is growing right now. And so when I'm talking about parks later, we'll reference back. I'm not going to show you the slide again, but this is very useful when we're talking about the need for parks and where people are showing up, because you'll note in this area there's not a lot of parks or vacant land for parks at this time. This slide, if it's more red, it's growing. And the left picture is 2050, and the right slide is build out to show you where we think things are going to be changing the most. And the red means, I think it's 1,000 units. I can't read the graphic, but I think that means 1,000 units are going to show up. Maybe it's 500. I can't remember.
More than 600?
600, thank you. There's a lot of numbers to remember, but again, there's not a ton of value in these slides other than just giving you an idea of how things are going to change, not just between now and 2050, but 2050 to build out. This slide is like a little commercial because I'm getting ready to talk to you about more population growth. And while today, actually last year, your average per shopping center is about 16,500 people. That because we believe you're underbuilt at this time, 15.5. We do this all over the place, and these numbers are very accurate. Around 15,000 is the trigger for a new neighborhood shopping center, a new park, and a new fire station. And so, if you think in terms of those 15,000 things, it also generally means also a new elementary school. With the change in demographics, we're not claiming anything and have not done any work on your schools, but we see those things often being triggered at the same time based on the same growth. It's just to show you what happened in the last year between these two data sets. In theory, they're 13 months apart. You grew by about 3,500 housing units. There was 102 multifamily. What that means is there was 51 duplexes, I believe, in that process. I don't believe there was anything more than a duplex at that point. It may be a fourplex. I can't remember exactly. And you've added about 300,000 square feet of commercial space. No meaningful industrial yet, but of course we see that coming. This is the distribution of your existing commercial. Again, which if you live here, you drive these roads, you know this. What I'm here to point out is, remember that graphic where we had all those new doorknobs? Well, notice how there's not a lot of commercial up in that area. So we see a demand, a future surge, probably in the near future, probably in the next 5 years or so, you're going to see a lot more, I think, development up that way. Again, not surprising. And near as we can tell at this point, you have the right land in the right locations. But just remember that one bullet point, we need to keep monitoring as land gets developed, what lands are still available for both important shopping center cases that, again, reduces trip lengths and increases quality of life and adds to the tax base, but also for those non-residential things, those civic things like parks, schools, fire stations, and et cetera. Am I talking too fast? I get excited sometimes. Okay. I don't want to bore you, though, either. So here's your build out. So again, you're about 205,000 build out. I'll just remind you, you have about 13.3 million square feet of commercial space now. That's a little tiny bit low for what we'd like to see, but you are ahead of the curve, and I got a graph to show you this compared to some other counties. But you have enough space to add another 25 million square feet of commercial space. And for now, those vacant lands are in the right places, but as things go along, if certain projects that I can't imagine, but someone comes up and takes a piece of land that we think is great for commercial, and today you could do commercial, but instead it goes residential, those kinds of things could create shortages in certain locations in the future, but we'll wait until that happens. Just wanted to sort of forewarn you. You're going to add about 11 million square feet of industrial space, and that's the problem with industrial is, as you know, it can be very efficient or inefficient, and usually we see early on that industrial uses are very inefficient. In other words, I got 100 acres and I got like 1,000 square foot shed on it, and then I'm using it to store equipment and stuff like that, and that's very common. And then as the land becomes more and more value and more people live in an area, those things then start to converting to bigger warehouses and that sort of thing. So while we're saying 15 million, you could probably afford 30 million on that same land, but we're projecting the same utility that you have right now on your vacant lands, but you have a lot of supply, and that's really great for balancing tax base. We were doing a presentation last week for a city of Cape Coral, and we noted a full 25% of tax base was non-residential space. That's great, right? We have commercial, industrial helping to pay the freight for our residents to enjoy the things that they have. So here is a fancy logistic curve. This is where we plotted when we sum up all those 350 zones and we add up how they're going. And you'll note that there's two ways to look at 2020. One was were you on a trajectory, and then since the Great Remigration, it's changed direction. And that's one way to look at it, that you're now on a new trajectory. And I'm not making any claims here, but another way to look at that, if you just took 2020 and moved it up, meaning maybe you were undercounted in 2020, I'm saying maybe, that would smooth that curve out a whole lot. And if you can jump out, it's hard to see, but if you look just past 2035, 2040, you can see it's just ever so slight a change in the angle. The growth curve is starting to slow down just a little bit. And now we get to the population. So District 3 is going to grow just in the next less than 15 years, another 18,000. So again, that 15,000 number I gave you is a very useful, simple, like a Swiss Army knife metric. Okay, again, we're talking about need another park, need another school, need another fire station, and perhaps other things in progress. Whereas District 1 is going to see another 8,000. So 8,000 doesn't mean it won't need something, because it might be halfway there already, and by the time it hits that extra 8,000, it might trigger the need for these things as well. Again, it's important to monitor the availability of land and the needs localized and so forth. And this is similar to the housing, except this one is population, and I think this one's 500. Madam Chair, I don't know if you can verify that, but I think it says 1,000. Okay, 1,000. So the dark blue is where we've added 1,000 people, or where there are, say, 1,000 people. That's what you can look at some of these that on the left-hand side. That by the 2050 they'll be adding 1,000 people there. Areas that are white and stay white, meaning that there's no people there. It's probably commercial or industrial or something like that. We have certain areas that are like that, and that's why they stay white. The demographics, by the way, I have a confession to make. So in your packages, there may have been a typo, and it was on actually District 3. It claimed that the vacancy rate was 19.3. It's actually, that was my fault. It was 9.3. I will tell you that was a typo. All the math is perfect. In fact, we've actually updated the seasonal population and demographics ever so slightly, because as different areas grow that have different demographics, it changes the overall demographics for for each one of these district areas. Any questions?
The packet's correct.
It is? Okay, good. Well, thank you. Because that was my fault, and I just updated her, I think, yesterday, or Wednesday. Anyway, so again, sorry about that. I've said it before, I'll say it again. You didn't mention your list of accomplishments. You guys are the RV capital of the world. And I mean nothing about that. Just we work in a lot of areas, and no one has as many RV resort type spaces that you guys have. It's interesting too. When I'm talking about parks in a little while, and we're not going to dive deep into that. But I don't know how your impact fees are set up with both hotels and these resort type places, but most of our clients are actually charging park impact fees to these things. So this could be a potential funding mechanism to help offset some of the cost to acquire land or develop park lands. Again, I'm getting way ahead of myself, but just want to point that out. With 2,700 units left to come, there's a potential there to help offset some of these costs in the future. Your seasonal population. So in speaking with some of your administration, one Commissioner Bays as well, she says, it just sure feels like there's a lot more than 160,000 people around here. And so this was not actually in our scope, speaking of extras. We thought it was interesting enough, and because the project's big enough, we went ahead and dove in and calculated or analyzed to find the seasonal population, and then calculated the progression, as you can see. So it's definitely over 20,000. Now, it doesn't mean on a given day all those people are here. It just means that based on the demographic data we have from the census, and combined with some of your RV data that we have, that this is how you are, 21,000 at least seasonal residents here, and that's marching by 2050 to close to 29,000 and up to 44,000 at build out. So that's a great potential that brings more money into this area. And I'm not advocating for anything, but should you do a sales tax, these folks are going to help pay for some of the things that you guys need. Shopping centers are important. They're not your job. I'm not saying at all that government should be building shopping centers, but it is your job to make sure that there's the right land and the right locations. And when we do that, we minimize the time it takes for our residents to drive, which maximizes property values and minimizes the amount of unnecessary driving. We did an analysis for another client, and we found that if they allowed 2 neighborhood shopping centers, it's going to save 4 million miles a year forever and ever and ever and ever and ever. Plus, it was going to add $500,000 to their tax base every year forever and ever and ever with no really additional costs. So these are good things to have and plan for. I'm not saying that you should just be approving them right and left, but if these are located spatially well, they do minimize congestion and traffic and, again, increase the quality of life for residents. We actually looked at your DNA because what we like to do, we don't want to take an assumption from somewhere else, so we analyzed you. And at the bottom of the slide here is that there's that 16,005 number that your average shopping center, neighborhood shopping center, grocery anchored, is serving about 16. We think you're going to migrate closer to that 15,500 as these stores are added, especially up in the Citrus Springs area. And we have a map coming up here too. You also have community shopping centers. This is a collection of big boxes, usually 300,000. You have 3 of these right now spread out throughout the county. You're going to need a couple more before it's all said and done. We think, again, that Citrus Spring area is going to, not in 5 years, but that will probably be an ideal location for one of these in the decades to come. Okay, this is a big table. The good news is you can just stare at the bottom 3 lines, where we have the neighborhood shopping centers, the community shopping centers, and regionals. So as you can see, between now and 2035, you're going to need 1 every 5 years, and then it skips about a decade, and then by 2045, you're going to need a third at least. And you can see by 2035, we need another community shopping center again. That's that collection of 300,000. That might be an evolution. Again, I'm not saying this is going to happen here, but it could be where the new Home Depot is going in. Development tends to attract development, so it could form around that, or it could form closer down the road to where the Suncoast Parkway is tying in. With that said, here's a map that shows you where we think the timing and location of how part of this is based on land availability and growth, what's happening in these areas, and the supply of what's there now compared to what we think is going to be needed in those areas. Of course, the free market is the free market. It's really hard to predict money sometimes, like Tom Moynihan dumping $400 million out into the middle of rural Carter County, which is now known as Ave Maria. Those things, without knowing that ahead of time, are very, very hard to predict. And so things can happen that we're not showing here. But all things being equal, we think this is how you're going to develop both timing and spatially. We test just internet data you download. There's a lot of data you can download free. This is actually our data, so I know it's accurate. And these are not scorecards. So we show they have an average of about 100 square feet per capita of commercial space. Some of these counties are very different than Citrus. But pointing out, like Charlotte, they have 71 square feet per capita, whereas you have 78. We'd like to see you closer to 90 square feet, but you're not really, wouldn't say you're totally deficient. We think that number is going to climb over time. One of the things that makes you different than some of the people in here, like Charlotte County, they leak to the north to Northport that has a Costco and that sort of thing, or to the south to North Lee County, so they have a lot of shopping opportunities. I believe right now your people are leaking maybe to the Ocala area, but we think that will be slowing down or stopping as more of these areas are developed and offer some of the things that can only be discovered over in or ascertained over in Ocala and whatnot. Again, this maybe is just some nerdy stuff. The breakdown, and this is classic across most of Florida that's not heavily tourist-based, 2/3, 1/3 between retail and office. We see as areas mature, that starts approaching 50-50, but you are right in the middle of what we expect to see for you. There's a slide coming up. Oops, sorry about that, back up. I'll be talking about how this ratio has changed over the last couple of years as a bullet point coming up. I'll just remind you back to this one. So with industrial, again, this is our data. And you can see, you guys have about 24 square feet. We think that as you're doing the development by the airport and some other industrial developments come along, that number is gonna rise and probably exceed what Charlotte County is at 30 square feet. And you can see some of these counties now. You look at Manatee, Sarasota. They're also are right on 75 and have easy access. Some of the things that you don't have, but you have a lot of great land with an ample power supply nearby. So we see that you have a potential to have some real job creation here showing up in the county over time and as your economic development takes place. So this is going back to money changes things. This is what we call this is your organic growth, how we think you're going to grow without the introduction of like a Amazon coming and putting a 20 million square foot facility here. This is what's going to happen now. Anything with money can change that and add to this, but we think even without having a big player come to town, this is what you're likely to see over time, how you'll absorb space based on the needs of your population, construction, and those sorts of things. Am I going too fast? Again, I don't want to bore you. Hey, we're back to the last slide. So one of the things that is exciting and challenging is your number of vacant platted lots. There are a lot of them. With that said, you're burning through, between 1,000 and 2,000 of them a year. So they are being developed over time, and more lots will be created, of course, as people plat more projects and such. So the second bullet was what I was referring to. You have a 2/3, 1/3 classic mix. Since 2000, though, you've been permitting and developing nearly 3/4 of it as retail versus office or service type things. And so we think in the very near future you're going to sort of flip, and we're going to see some more services show up. One, you have a lot of people, and to the case in point, as the hospital gets built, that's one of those services that we will see, and that will certainly add a whole bunch of square feet and could change that ratio back to the 2/3, 1/3 that we like to see. Or that it's normal for your type of development and such. You can consider policy changes that raise density only in areas that make sense. We're not here preaching high density, but some of these where these community shopping centers are showing up and such, some of those might be a good location for a medium-sized density that would allow for people, both the younger and the older people that want to live near these type of facilities or that work at these facilities. It could be a win-win. But again, you are the policymakers, and that is up to you. And then the last bullet point is just hammering that point again about monitoring the vacant land. Vacant land is your currency. It is the thing that gives you flexibility. When you run out of vacant land, it's like an anaconda just sort of squishing you. You can't move anymore because there's nowhere to go. So acquiring vacant land, maintaining vacant land is a vital resource to the future, making sure you have the flexibility to react and persuade things to happen that are better for the county than other things. Any questions? I hope I didn't run you over. That was never the intention.
Commissioner Barrick?
All right, I have a couple of things I wanted to ask you.
Yeah.
Okay, so when I'm going through this and I see all this, so the original PUD plans for Citrus Springs included the business areas and the houses. It included duplexes, triplexes, apartment complexes. If we were to stay the course with the original PUD, we would be right on target for what you're proposing.
Okay.
Okay, so now, and I looked on your things, and where I have been proposing a park is where you're proposing a park, which is along the river, and it's a decent size, 17 plus acres of parkland. So what I'm thinking is, we've been having residents from Citrus Springs write to Publix, and they've been writing, asking for them to start building their grocery store on Deltona, which was where they owned property. And I think that's a good idea. What do you feel?
Well, I don't know the exact parcel you're talking about, but along that 41 corridor, is that what you're talking about?
No, along you get off of 491 onto Deltona, which is one of the main drags,
Okay.
and it's got one lane each direction, but it also has the median. But that's where Publix had property,
Okay.
build a store.
Okay.
And we've been doing a writing campaign to Publix to get it built. I'm thinking I should send them a copy of this, and they can say,
By all means.
Because I know it's in their plans, but it's not in the 5-year plan. It's in like 7 or 8 years out.
Right, and the thing with Publix builds very little, if any. It's usually there's a developer, preferred developers they work with that come in and take down the land and actually build those facilities. And so I know the first one we're expecting based on that map is maybe not on Deltona, but right next to the Citrus Springs, just north of the Pine Ridge area. We believe there's a Winn-Dixie there now. There's more than enough people to support 2 neighborhood shopping centers, and we think that's going to be the next one that's going to be coming in. We think fairly shortly.
Well, if you want to cut down on driving, you put it on Deltona because that's where the houses are going in.
Right.
We have a couple big projects going in currently, not just the individual ones, because apartments are planned on the PUD for around that area.
Right, and that again, as the board, you guys can incentivize, and I'm not saying how, but you can incentivize because in the free market, again, the problem is government doesn't develop grocery stores, right? You just you zone the land for it to make it possible, but the free market then decides which area to go. Sometimes based on need, but sometimes based on availability. Well, I can buy the land at a reasonable price from this buyer, so that's why the store might wind up on a different corridor or 2 or 3 miles from where you think the ideal location because they couldn't find the land at a price that makes their performer work.
That's like you said, District 3 has the least amount of seasonal population, which is true.
Mm-hmm.
Most of the population in District 3 live there around here or are snowbirds that come every year to the same place.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't see that changing.
I agree. Your district is very, very stable and is likely to stay that way because of its central location and, again, I think availability of resources too.
Okay, so what is a good number for industrial supply, square footage?
I'd like to, well, hopefully you guys are going to hit about 30 square foot per capita by the time I'm hoping you guys can hit that by 2035, 2040. Right now you're at 22, 23 square feet on a per capita basis. And other counties of about your size are hovering around the 30 range. So we'd like to see you grow to that level, one, to help your tax base and provide, employment opportunities too.
So setting aside our lands as we're doing this, we should be setting aside, say, a corridor for industrial, like 41, and have
Well, like
industrial in one area.
Holder has we're forecasting a ton of industrial up in that way as well as commercial. I think we have a community shopping center up that way eventually too. And then of course down at the airport, I drove through that yesterday at the Inverness Airport. You have quite a bit of vacant land there. Of course, that's probably a different user at the airport than it is in the Holder area. But we encourage those things, and you have the land available, which we applaud. And they're not small. Sometimes we find 40 acres, and 40 acres is great, but you guys have hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of acres of available land that really allow for a lot of flexibility and something of scale that is hard to find in other counties.
That's what I'm saying, between Holder and Hernando on 41, if that becomes the industrial area, because most cities and most areas have an industrial area and industrial parks.
Or several, yeah.
Yeah, and it's close to the residential, which would be the Citrus Springs, Beverly Hills, Pine Ridge people, which is the dense population, and it would be centralized. We make it easier for the fire departments if there's problems, or the police departments if there's problems, because it is one area. So that's why, I'm looking at what you've been saying, and I've been trying to get people to understand, it's coming, and it's not going to stop, but it's coming to District 3.
I would encourage you to share the population forecast with anyone and everyone you want to, because part of it is getting that word out. And part of it is there's, without the census, there's a huge lag to that data showing up on Wikipedia and such too. This is current, down to the minute when it was created, and it's going to. If you look on the internet, we're way above the numbers you're going to see on the internet, but this is actually, again, real doorknobs we've actually counted that are there today, which I think is going to surprise some people. You guys have added, in 25 years, you've added 54,000 people. I mean, that's a lot, And I think your retailers and commercial developers haven't really caught up with you yet. I think that's coming, and I think fairly rapidly, not maybe this year, but I'm thinking between 2030, 2035, it might be very, not scary, but impressive, the amount of change that happens, especially it's going to be, I think it's going to be like commercial just kind of shows up sort of overnight. It won't, but it's going to feel that way, I believe, over the next 10 years.
So we should be actually looking backwards a little bit at what the PUD for Citrus Springs has and not going around doing zoning changes because it actually does and says what you're saying.
Well,
You
so
followed it.
right, and so I can't sit here and talk with specific knowledge about the Citrus Spring PUD, but most PUDs like that are designed to meet their own needs, not other people's needs. I'm not saying it doesn't. Sometimes they have an outsized commercial area that's designed to serve a huge outside population. And so what I would say is, without knowing, my guess, my hunch would be that DRI was meant to serve itself, and so it's great for itself, but its adjoining neighbor still has commercial needs, still has industrial needs, and so they can't all be solved with just that. So that might be a reason to approve other projects and so forth. But again, you're a policymaker, I'm not.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Holly? Excuse me, Commissioner Davis?
I beg your pardon.
Sorry about that.
First off,
Slow morning.
first off, I want to thank you for doing the green print interview, and we just went through North Florida Land Trust doing a green print for the county. Are you aware of that?
I am not.
Okay. We need to, Mr. Howard, we need to link up. That heat map in the upper northwest is frightening because that's exactly where our drinking water recharge area is, and it's not currently protected.
Well, look at so it's
So-
fairly white. Hold on. Sorry. I mean, depending which northwest you see, that far northwest, it stays white because we don't.
No,
have,
it's right where the dark blue and then
Okay.
the teal kind of goes down that way, but we're already talking about doing an overlay with roads and already approved developments on the conservation maps, so we can have an idea of where we are.
Okay.
But then that is a little frightening to me. To back up for those who aren't aware of what's going on with this, I mean, I always thought because we have 36% of our land is already protected, and you look at all those state forests, clearly we have great recharge for our aquifers. It's not in the forest. It's up in unprotected land. And so, and drinking water was, I believe, final report's not out yet, but I believe drinking water is going to be the runaway #1 priority from citizens as well as the commissioners and the subject matter experts. So this is very concerning to me because, kind of like you, I live 40 years out. Like I'm always trying to set things up, things that I won't actually see happen. And so I assume you agree, Mr. Howard, that we need to sort of made up all of the stuff, the comp plan
We are.
updates,
Yeah.
metro development, and the green print.
And so I'm not trying to talk out of both sides of my mouth. So that 2050, the good news is it's not 2050. And the good news is it's not developed like that today. And so in some respects, what we're modeling, there's some art to what we do, but what we're trying to do is also model your policies. And so if you don't like something, then let's create a policy that changes that. And it's not, we're not trying to scare anyone here, but we are trying to show, based on everything we know, this is what's going to happen, and there's plenty of time to make those changes. And whether is there an overlay or something that changes density or reduces density or protects lands, we're more than happy to incorporate that and reprocess and show you those call them impacts or reduced impacts from said policy or overlays. So.
Yeah, well, like they say, what is it? The best time to have planted a tree is 20 years
20
ago,
years
and
ago.
the next best time is today. So, we can affect the future to make it better.
Yeah.
So, with the proper planning. So,
I mean, with all these platted lots, it's hard you'd have to go in and buy those up if you wanted to change that. But out there's not a lot of, there's some fairly decent sized parcels out there that you could pick up and with the right funds and never. You can take them off the development list forever. There's certainly that potential.
that's the plan,
So,
and especially ag, making sure that we get the conservation easement on the ags.
and there's there are some really great programs out there, rural land stewardship areas, where you don't have to do it this way, but it's usually done with trading units. Say, I'm taking the density from here and I'm going to move it to an area that makes more sense. And so you're not taking anything away. You're just preserving things that you want to preserve, like ag or pristine lands, and focusing the development on maybe lands that are less pristine and abandoned or otherwise farmed before and cleared. Again, that's I'm not suggesting you go that route, but there's some really great programs out there that you can see how that's worked out for them, and how it might be an opportunity or a mechanism that you can consider using here in Citrus to, again, voluntary, not take anyone's land, but again, trying to focus the development in the right places and maybe not allow or deter development where we'd like to see more preservation and such.
Excellent. Thank you, Mr. Farmer.
Pleasure.
Anybody else?
I'll just make a couple of comments. The 2020 census, there is a report out that shows that Florida in total was undercounted by 750,000 residents, which equated to $11.4 billion of lost revenue. And for Citrus County specifically, that was $32.8 million. Couple of observations, and it's not necessarily directed to you, but maybe to Public Works to think about. When we think about population and where it's coming in, roads are very expensive. And so when you talk about placement of shopping centers to population of 15,500, if we start to plan and look at that, can we avoid, by having shopping centers in those strategic areas of population growth, have you seen it be successful in other places where you just have a typical 2-lane road with maybe some access management points where how you route traffic to keep it's just not sustainable to keep building 4 lanes and keep adding capacity and then have to maintenance them. So are you seeing this as a trend going across Florida, getting shopping centers where they need to be for population structure to reduce traffic, and then also reduce the expansion dollars that are needed for that?
So to some extent, yes. A lot of our clients, where they're encouraging or allowing, where sometimes the policymakers or staff thought that commercial was bad to have in residential areas because it's incompatible. Well, turns out people need things, and while some people maybe grumble on the front end, everyone winds up shopping in those stores in the back end. In terms of those access roads, I've seen those work and then also not work so well. It really depends on how well they're designed. There's the best ones have a fairly long half-mile or mile-long span between where you can get back out on the main road, and that really does help prevent unnecessary trips on the main road out there. But unfortunately, it takes a lot of planning, which is not unfortunately, it takes a lot of planning because now I've got to not only have the right-of-way from my road, but I've got to then force developers to reserve another 60, 80 feet for maybe not right-of-way, but area for that access road that then they're going to build, to your point, so that the county doesn't have to pay for that roadway and maintain it forever and so forth. So you get pushback from some developers, but if there was, to Commissioner Davis's point, the best time to plan that would have been 20 years ago, but hey, today's a good day too. Those access roads do, in fact, alleviate traffic on the major corridors. I don't know if they're practical in every area, but for access management and reducing congestion on our public roads, those are a viable tool that can work very well.
Since we're in the middle of a comp plan update, this would be a perfect time to start taking this report, laying that out to know where the future development's going and working with.
That could be done, right? You need to work with Public Works and such, and how much land would we need to set aside so you can have those standards and adopted in your land development code so that they're enforceable and so forth. It's when you have big commercial projects come in, that is really the ideal time to be looking at those sort of things. As I was going through Target yesterday, going through that whole Target complex, I was heartened by all of the interactivity I could get from any one parcel to another parcel without getting back out on the main road, and that is an excellent, because some governments feel like it's not required to have things connect, and that just creates chaos in parking lots because I can see where I want to go, I just can't get from here to there, but you don't have have that problem. So you're right with your comp plan now. It's not just your comp plan, but your land development codes will need to be updated. And again, they're not appropriate for every one of your corridors. Some of your tighter corridors, it just won't work because it does chew up another. If you look in both left and right, you're talking about chewing up another 150 feet at least of land that could otherwise be developed for commercial purposes. And so in areas where you have skinny or not a lot of depth between the right-of-way and where then the residential starts, there isn't enough land to accommodate what we're talking about here. But in many areas, that's a possibility throughout the counties from looking at aerial photography and your actual parcel sizes.
Unless I misunderstood, you weren't talking about access roads, were you? I think
Well,
you were
what
talking
I'm-
about the main thoroughfare, keeping
Well,
that small.
keeping that, yes, but if you're putting shopping centers in, you would have to have some kind of access management, I would think, to accommodate that.
But not standalone access roads, right?
No.
Yeah, I didn't think that's.
Okay. Charlotte County has some of those. I grew up in Fairbanks, Alaska. We had those, and they were useful, but they were planned out. They were old when I was growing up, 40 years ago.
When I said access management, I'm talking more in terms of like what we have at Target.
Okay.
Getting them, having a turn lane, getting them off, but not building out 4 lanes or 6 lanes.
Right. Something else too about congestion, and this is just to nerd out, one of the main causes of congestion are traffic signals. And so figuring out a way to reduce the number of needed traffic signals, it goes a long way towards reducing congestion. I'm not saying don't approve traffic signals. I'm saying if we can design our projects so we have fewer of them and more tie into the same signals, that's a winning combination. If you look at DOT, they have tables where it goes from I've got less than one signal per mile up to where I've got 5 or 6 signals per mile. And you can look at the level of service. It falls. In other words, the number of available trips falls like a rock because there's so many lights that if I just add another 100 cars, the whole thing goes into congestion mode because the lights keep stopping things and so forth. So what some counties do is you can't make every corridor a managed access, but you pick your battles, pick your corridors. Okay, this is going to be intentionally a limited access one, and therefore our commercial has to tie in together to minimize these number of signals so that we can create free flow conditions. I feel like I'm stepping on a lot of toes right now because there's some very smart people behind me that know how to do all this stuff. I'm just trying to offer things from other areas that we've seen work and so forth.
And then just, did your calculations take into consideration, which we have not done yet, the 495 IMA off of the Suncoast?
I'm sorry, IMA.
Interchange management area, like we have off of the Suncoast Parkway for Cardinal 44 and 486. Did you take into consideration anything at 495?
I don't know standing here right now. I do know when I looked at the Suncoast Parkway and to pick on one that I am familiar with, Cardinal, as it crosses there.
Cardinal is south of here, and 495 will be the very northern point before it terminates onto 19.
These are
I had
ideal
a reason
areas.
to be in the area the other day, and I was driving through there, and I'm very concerned. I think that area is going to be a nightmare if we don't get in front of it.
Well, the county, again, without being specific on remembering all those parcels that are at that exact intersection, I'd like to see some more commercial near the Suncoast Parkway, if not for employment centers or other things. Right now, it looks to me like it's all residential, and I'm not trying to kick people out of their houses or anything like that. But I do believe in government strategic owning land so that it can control and promote the right uses in the right locations. Some of these are, unfortunately, they used to be neighborhoods, but now that I've got the Suncoast Parkway going through it, that those access areas are ideal for more high intensity uses that will again reduce congestion on some of your other county roads. And so I think in the comp plan, that's definitely something that should be looked at is creating some of these commercial node areas or promoting them. Again, not trying to take people's land, kick them out of houses, but
So I wanted to do one last clarification. You mentioned our current vacant inventory is it 55,000 lots? Is that,
50, I think it's 53,600.
okay.
Of course, that maybe it's
And those are basically left over from
so there's-
DRIs from
Citrus
Beverly
Springs, right,
Hills, Citrus Springs, Pine Ridge.
Right. So we tried to we didn't count every vacant parcel, but those are the vacant lot, the platted vacant lots where a traditional single family home is likely to show up. Yes, throughout the county, that's what you have, including Sugar Mill Woods and so forth.
So pretty much the growth that we have seen over the last few years is things that have been on the books
Yes.
for years. It's
yes.
that this has nothing to do with anything that's been,
Very little of your growth seems to
Approved.
be from projects you approved in the last 15 minutes. It's and that's the challenge of having a pre-platted area. We work in a lot of pre-platted areas, and if you buy the lot, you hire a contractor, build a house, and that that's just how America works. And so the downside is, as the government, as policymakers, you're trying to react to, how many people will show up this year? Well, we're not sure. Is it going to be 10,000? Is it going to be 5,000, 1,000? Because all those things matter and impact your levels of service and your ability to plan. You don't want to overplan, but you don't want to underplan either. And so those vacant lots make it very, very challenging to anticipate, because it can change very rapidly, right? Unlike a project where you have like Pulte as the home builder, and they're a marketing machine, they're going to build that thing out. The single-family home building could fall off a rock, fall like a rock, if certain environmental or economic conditions, rear their heads. If we got back into a high inflation environment or something like that, would just probably turn off like a faucet. But we're not projecting that, but it's one of the challenges of having so much inventory out there that is yet to be developed.
thank you.
I don't know if that was helpful, but I was trying.
Commissioner Barrick.
To add on to what Commissioner Bay said, the 55,000, does that include the 5,000 that were platted for the Tuscany Ranch?
I want to say no, because those aren't platted yet. At least in our data, it wasn't platted.
Well, they were given approval back in the 60s to do 8,000. They've done 3. That's why I'm wondering, is that 5,000
Nope.
included?
No.
Okay, so you're actually, so
These are
we're actually
platted
looking at-
lots.
we're actually looking at about 60,000 in that section of the county.
Well, the 52,600 is all over the county. That includes Sugar Mill
yeah.
Woods.
I don't know how to answer your question.
Well, that's what I wanted to know.
If it's a platted lot, we counted it. It's in that number. If it's just a
they're
piece of
not
land that hasn't been
individually
platted yet,
Like Citrus Springs is all individually platted.
right? Those.
Okay, Pine Ridge is all
Yeah.
individually platted.
Yep. That we counted
This
all those.
was a DRI that was set up by the state for 8,000. 3,000 have been built, and then the board approved the 55 or 5,000.
Right. And so that's in our forecast, but that's not in that number.
Okay, that's what I wanted to
no,
know.
yeah.
Okay, so that's not in that.
No, but we have that in our numbers, but it's not part of the platted lot thing because it
thank you.
isn't platted yet. So
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, thank you.
welcome. Ding ding, number 2. So now let's talk about fire stations. Now this one might frustrate you a little bit, and I hope it doesn't. You already know who we are. All right, so let's just nip this in the bud. So these tables are different than the ones I just showed you. That's because we started working on this in June. The upside is before we were done with the analysis, we had by this point the water meter data again from Mr. Cheek. We were very grateful for that data. It was very helpful. It helped backfill things that we were feeling in the parcel data but didn't have the evidence. His water meters were the evidence, and so we're not showing those in this table, but we had up to the minute information that we were using to help forecast for the fire stations. So just get that out of the way. So same story, you're growing. You're going to grow a whole bunch by at least 60,000 residents by 2050. Here are your existing fire districts. And what we did, so you have a certain number of calls. We've excluded, so when we talk about from here on out, when we talk about fire stations, we're only talking about your fire stations, not the ones that are part of Inverness or anywhere else. And so, so here's your existing fire districts. By the way, today I have with me Alvaro, who actually he did I'm standing on his shoulders. This is really all of his work, but I'm presenting the data, so I'm standing on his shoulders right now. So here's where we took all of your existing stations, and we were looking at your level of service, and it was interesting. So if I go backwards to this map, so this has very defined areas like Station 1 or Station 5. This is the service area. This table ignores that. This table says, hey, okay, this station responded to this many calls, whether it was in their own district or someone else's district or whatnot. And as you can see by the middle column there, the number answered in 8 minutes, which is your adopted level of service. And as you can see, very few of them, or most of them, don't come anywhere close to meeting the 8 minutes. Part of that is you have a very big county. There's a lot of area to cover, and if we had a fire station on every corner, you'd probably need a 20-cent sales tax. You're not there yet, and so it's very, very challenging to get to these calls in a timely fashion. So part of that again is the spread out nature, and part of it is that we think that there's a pent up demand for some fire stations which are going to come out of this. So again, here's your existing stations, here's the existing calls, and what we did is we looked at exactly 3 years worth of data. So we're not trying to mislead you, but these are not single years data. We're using 3 years so that you get spikes in the data from hurricanes or whatever, or other natural events that happen, and this sort of smooths out the data so we don't have the spikes anymore, which is good again for our analysis purposes. And so the bottom bullet there, we're saying that stations 3, 20, and 23 responded to 45% of all the calls in that 3-year period. So that's a lot, right? So we have some stations that are likely overloaded. The data starts pointing in that direction, but we look at things in multiple ways. I want to tell you this is sort of misleading because it looks like we just jumped to the answer. Well, actually, did a whole bunch of work before this slide became obvious that, okay, we're going to need 4 stations. We didn't start with any ideas of how many stations were needed. It was the data. We let the data do the talking, but in the end, we know that 4 are going to be needed. And these are the locations, and I believe many, if not most of these, are already on a county-owned property. Yeah, and so the first Fire Station 1 that we're proposing in Central Ridge is the only one that's on privately owned property at this point in time. All right, so here we're taking, again, we take the existing calls. Did I do that? Did I go backwards or forwards? There we go. Took the existing calls, and then what we did is we projected what the calls would be like in 2030, and so we represent all the new stuff. This is key. We're not reforecasting existing stuff. The new stuff is the red dots, and there's kind of a lot of them because you're growing. And so we looked at these, and so at first in our analysis we had Central Ridge coming in. But the longer we looked at things, and we understand these are expensive things, they're capital intensive, and so we don't flippantly just say, well, heck, you need 2. We did a lot of analysis, and you need 2, and you need them now. We're saying by 2030 because if you start right this second, you'll be lucky to have them online by 2030. You could actually probably use them closer to today, but it's just not in the cards, right, between design, ordering trucks, and funding, and all of those things. So we need 2 more by 2030. Even though it's, so we point out there in the first bullet, so we're adding 8,200 homes in that time frame and 16,000. And so again, looks like I'm talking on both sides of my mouth. Well, it's 16,000. You said, Dave, you said only need 1 fire station for every 15,000, but because of the dispersed nature of where these calls are happening, we need these 2, the Lecanto and Central Ridge at the same time. So by 2035, then we're bringing on then Cardinal. Down south, I think it's the yellow district, so I can go backwards. So notice how, I don't have a laser, I don't have a laser. So you see the blue, like the navy blue shape in there for that. You can see that's Lecanto, and then we add the yellow to it. So what happens is that district gets smaller because we're adjusting. As we step through time, we keep adding fire stations. We're adjusting every district that touches that one so that we're rebalancing both existing calls and the future calls. Again, trying to, again, the key word is balance, because stations need to have as an optimal workload as possible, and we try to achieve that. Your chief, Stevens, was just excellent to work with, him and his staff. We met with them frequently, getting feedback, showing them what the data was going to see, and yet he did not tell us to do 3 stations. This, again, the data tells us that this is what's needed, where, and when. And then we jump to 2045. This one, we're pretty sure you're going to need it by 2045, almost definitely sure. But this is the beauty of this, is that's 20 years from now, and this report should be updated in 5 years, and then we'll have a much clearer idea of how the development patterns, it maybe things slowing way down or sped way up. It's hard to see, but we think it's definitely going to be needed by 2045. And at that point in time, you'll have added then 50,000 new permanent residents. It's just mind-blowing, right? What you've added in the last 25 years, looks like you're going to be doing that again in this process. So we're projecting another 20,000 calls on top of what you have today. Again, looking at the red dots are all the new calls that we're forecasting in those areas. And so we call this the stair-step table. It sort of shows it all in one, and stepping through time. As you can see, the calls are constantly being rebalanced and so forth. It's embarrassing the number of iterations it takes to do this. This table was probably done 20 times as we are adjusting things and saying, well, this one looks too high. Let's go back and let's change this service area to try to, again, optimize and balance these. And all of our work is also easily transferred to your GIS department so that they're not then trying to interpret our maps. They'll get the actual lines we drew that they can be using, and even modifying, because in the end, it is your fire professionals that really know their area the best and how the maps should be done. But we think this is going to help lead to or improve your 8-minute response time and getting closer to your 90% target rate based on your level of service. And we've then provided here the alt keys of the specific parcels where we think that you need to have these, and we've actually got down. We don't do design work, but we actually were to the point where we're looking with the chief of these parcels and which side of the parcel should the fire station go on. So this is very well thought out where things should go for the best access and get the most utility out of these sites. Perhaps even the one in Lecanto. I'm not trying to get ahead of myself, might even be a good co-location for a park. With that said, I don't know the parcel we selected that you own already, you may already have other plans for it, we're not sure, but we love the idea of putting fire stations and parks together, again, trying to co-locate things and minimize the number of parcels, again, the county has to purchase. Any questions? Again, didn't mean.
Or commissioners, this is why I needed caffeine.
What, you're drinking caffeine?
A very small amount. Don't worry. I know it could be. It could be dangerous. People are panicking.
Okay, so,
Commissioner Barrick.
all right, so originally, Beverly Hills had a fire station. It was a volunteer one, and as far as I understand, the building, it is still there, but it's not usable, and that's why we have the one in Pine Ridge. And with talking to the chief, he's got ideas of moving down onto Forest Ridge. I think it's a good idea, and it needs to be brought forward, and it needs to be addressed quickly and built quickly, because that's where population is growing, okay? I know that the airport one is needed for the people down in Inverness area and the people in Floral City. So now, this is above and beyond the airport one.
Yes.
So this would make fire station 2, 3, 4, 5. So within the next 20 years, we would need an additional 5 fire stations.
We're
correct?
rebuilding one, right? And sorry, it keeps getting worse because we didn't ignore, but what we're leaving out is some of these stations, as you pointed out, are old volunteer stations, and they're more like houses and weren't really set up as professional firefighting and EMS locations. And so above and beyond this even, you're probably looking at, and the chief can talk with more detail than I can, but you have more than 2 or 3 stations that are going to need to be completely redone.
Well, that's why Regina was closed down. as far as I know, from the information I've heard and seen. And okay, because that was a smaller station. The one on Elkham is a much nicer station. It's newer, and I appreciate it, okay? But I can see what the chief is saying. We definitely need to get the one started on Forest Ridge as soon as possible. So now, if we bring the station on at the airport, you're gonna need more people. Okay,
No, so the airport station is a relocation of the Highlands Fire Station. So when that station's built, we'll take all the equipment and all the personnel that are at the Highlands Station. They'll relocate to the airport, and then the Highlands location is gonna need to be utilized by DPW. So we're gonna keep that location for them to utilize, so the county can reutilize that property.
okay.
Chief, I'm sorry, Commissioner Barrick. The Forest Ridge Station that Commissioner Barrick is speaking of, isn't that the one you're waiting for if the agreement with Tuscany gets signed and
Yes,
then
ma'am.
they have the money for you then?
That is correct. So in the DRI, I think they're supposed to build us a 2-bay fire station. We'll obviously cover the cost to put on that 3rd bay and add the space that we may need. But yes, we hope that, that happens, which will help us out tremendously for the Central Ridge area. The reason we don't utilize the Beverly Hills Fire Station is the footprint's way too small. And secondly, believe it or not, that station was not owned by the county. We actually leased that property from the volunteer fire board that owned that building.
Thank
All
you,
right.
Chief.
Now, do you feel that a 2-bay station on Forest Ridge would be enough with the increase in population, or would it be better to try and go after a 3-bay initially and get the plans for a 3-bay and then maybe build 2 and then add the 3rd eventually?
Well, unfortunately, it's written in the DRI as a 2-bay fire station specifically. So even if the developer builds us the 2-bay, we'll pay for that additional bay space because we'll need to have that 3rd bay. And the reason we need the 3rd bay is you have the primary fire engine, a rescue, a brush truck, and then potentially a tanker.
Okay, because I know like the Beverly Hills area, they are older homes. And as you know, older homes tend to go a little faster, okay? But they're also older citizens, so you're having a lot of calls, not just for fires, but for ambulance and emergency services.
Yes, ma'am.
And being the most dense area in the county, we do need coverage.
Correct.
So,
And we want to build these fire stations out to where, maybe that one ambulance or one rescue is not enough. We want to build these stations out to where we could potentially put 2 ambulances or 2 rescues in those stations, so you don't have to build another fire station or find another facility for them.
well, I appreciate this study showing the need. And it is a need for the population, especially the new population, the old population, and those people going to move here in the, upcoming future within the next 10, 15 years. So, thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, thank you again.
No, thank you. You're very kind for putting up with a lot of me.
And you said we have a bonus one now, yes.
I promise this
mark
one's small.
analysis.
When we did this deck, it was actually for your staff, but they thought maybe you would want to see this. So let's go back in time. So it's our understanding that your last park was built about 25 years ago. And if we do some quick math, that takes us back to 2000. And what I love about even years is it means we've got a census. And so we went back and looked at the 2000 census, the 2010, 2020, and of course our data for 2025. And I'm just stating this factually, there's no attitude behind it, but since you haven't built any parks, it's real easy then to do the math, and we can see how the level of service has deteriorated over time, right? So if you let me around a little bit, so in 2000 you had 5 acres per 1,000. If you read Recreation Magazine or whatever, there's a gold standard of 10 acres per 1,000. We work for a lot of governments, and not a single one has anywhere near 10 acres. So it's a gold-plated platinum standard at 10. 5 is a good number. By 2010, you were at 4.1, call that 4. At 2020, 3.8, and now because of your growth, we're at 3.4 acres per thousand. So as policymakers, it is your purview to decide what that level of service is. And there is a lot of work still to do regarding level of service. It would be nice to keep 5. I'm going to show you some scary slides that are coming up. I think 4 is a good number, but again, you all can decide, and that decision is not to be made today. Think of this as sort of the preview before the movie actually starts. Okay, so here's just a bar graph. We're showing how, as population has grown, the level of service for each kind of park has deteriorated. All right, so this is where we take your population and say, okay, let's assume that we've landed on 4 acres per thousand is our new level of service that we're going to adopt, maintain, and project into the future. Well, that means today you're 108 acres of land short. And that's bad enough, but then you need to actually develop those into parks. And as you know, parks, depending on whether it's ball fields or biking trails or pools or whatever it might be, there's no one cost per acre, but we're talking millions of dollars here, and that's not lost on us. So today you're 108 acres short. If we adopt that level of service, jump to 2030, I'm 173 acres. Jump out to 2035, I'm almost 225 acres short. Again, we're just taking the land, and then somehow we have to turn those into viable parks as well. So again, I want to lay this at your feet. The intent is to come back to you with some additional analysis to what I would love to get is, do you think 4 is the right number? Or if you just need more time, there is no pressure on you today. I'm only asking is if we take this a little further, I want to make sure we don't waste time and money analyzing something that you're going to just knock down and say, no, we want to go with 3.8 or 3.2 or whatever that might be. And again, I don't need an answer necessarily today, but I'd love to get your raw feedback. But before you do that, this is kind of scary, but let's make it really scary. It's Halloween, right? So now let's look at our seasonal population, and if we start using that and projecting all of these things, and I will say, I'm not, again, trying to talk out of both sides of my mouth. I'm trying to be comprehensive in my presentation to you. So some places only project the seasonal population on their regional and community parks, not onto their neighborhoods, because it seems less likely that someone staying in a hotel is going to go to that neighborhood park, maybe, but they're more likely to go to, if they're staying in a hotel, it's probably because their kids are playing in a ball game, maybe, right, and that sort of thing. And this gets back also to impact fees. Again, I don't know when you last updated your park impact fee, but future hotels and things, that is a revenue source that should be explored to help offset some of these, because now we're looking at you're 194 acres short today, and jumping out to 2035, now you're 328 acres short. Now again, I'm being unfair because I'm applying the same standard to the neighborhoods. Again, these things are to be worked out, but I just wanted to get this in front of you, more to get you thinking about what your feelings are, and anyway, so I have some maps here to show you. So the blue is privately owned land, and the red is county-owned lands. There are more lands that the county owns, but they are designated for environmental preservation, and so or not just the county, but government-owned land that we pulled out because it's TIF lands or whatever. Now, not to say you can't go to them and cut a deal where you can do some sort of trail system or whatever. That's certainly a possibility, but this is a very sober, realistic look of what you have. And it's a little tiny misleading because there are many parcels you own that are even single-family lots. The dots are so small you can't see them on this, which is so now this is the same data, but what we've done is we've now color-coded the parcels. So if you want to look at, say, well, let's say I want to do a bunch of neighborhood parks, okay, those are purple parcels, and so you can start looking at the purple type areas. But if I'm looking at a community or regional park, now I need 50 acres. Well, there's only so many of those blue places along the way. Not that you couldn't also assemble land to build your own 50-acre parcel. That's certainly possible too, but we're just trying to show you the low-hanging fruit in terms of, and then so I want to go back now to where I was showing you all the real doorknobs of homes that have just shown up in the last year and where they're located, and it's that northern area. And note, I only have a couple parks up that way today, and yet it's exploding in population. So I think the goal would be to determine a level of service that is manageable, adoptable, and then create a list of parcels, primary and secondary parcels for different types of park for acquisition, so your real estate team can get working on this to start acquiring. Because I will tell you, in the center sort of this map, we are watching ideal parcels being consumed and platted into more lots, even though they're surrounded by 1 million platted lots and being turned into new homes. And so we're going to lose the ability to create these parks or drive up the cost because of aggregating a bunch of single-family lots to try to create a park. I don't mean that in any threatening way, just practical reality, us looking at the data, looking at the parcels and ownerships and then trends of how those things are changing in the area. And then just look south here, sort of in the Sugar Mill area. There's still a decent number of parcels, not quite as challenging as the north, but there's reasons to, again, acquire some of this land sooner than later before it's gone. Again, so we don't want that. We don't want to be constrained. We want to make sure we have flexibility, and again, vacant land is one of the keys to that. So this wasn't meant for a major formal presentation laid at your feet. If you have any feedback, I'd love to hear it. If you don't, you want to think about this, that's totally fine. If you have any feedback, I'd be glad to hear it.
You want to go first? Go ahead.
Sure. So this goes back to what I talked about earlier with drinking water. One of the 7 conservation maps that they showed us is parks and recreational areas. That includes the state forest because you can hike and four-wheel and all that other stuff in there. So there's a couple things. I don't know if I can't recall the number off the top of my head, but the Tourism Council is working on a different funding mechanism to help us get ball fields.
Okay. Yay.
Which would be awesome. But all of this is interwoven with this green print. And you wanted to know what level of service. I would say 4 dead minimum, and I'd much rather have 5 because where nature and community thrive. So, and then finally, what Mr. Bush from the North Florida Land Trust likes to say is he said public safety, which, Chief Stevens and Sheriff Vincent, public safety makes a community survivable, but it's parks and rec and open space that make it enjoyable, or livable.
Can I respond just or react? So something I want to, when we look at these tables, I think we'll go back to the less scary one here. Actually, what I want to go back to is this. So something was pointed out yesterday. Hey, this doesn't include the state parks. There are state parks. We're fully admitting that, but this is apples to apples. This is you to you, right? This isn't the way it used to be when we count state parks. Now we don't. So this is how the level of service has changed. Now, if you start adding in the state parks, we could bring up these things. We do have clients. Unnamed clients that they added a 5,000 acre wetland with about 3 car parking spaces, and they use that to solve their level of service. We don't like to see that because it feels disingenuous. But
Something like that with a parking lot and boardwalks like the Recharge Park in Ocala would certainly.
if it was actually
If it was designed for
3 parking
bird
spaces,
watching.
yes.
Yeah.
It's hard to say that those 3 parking spaces are going to serve 20,000 people. Anyway.
One of the things that was revealed in this green printing process is that we have 36% of our land in conservation, which is well over the state average of 28%. However, we only have 310 acres under county control. And we are like thousands and thousands of acres behind the state average per county. So we do have some work to do.
Okay. Thank you for weighing in. I appreciate the feedback
Absolutely.
very much, with the understanding that there's 4 other people too. Anyone that wants to weigh in or not.
Commissioner Barrick?
Well, Parks and Recs is an impact fee, okay? Parks and Recs will never be a moneymaker. People need to realize that. They are developed for the citizens' use and for relaxation, recharging people, recharging families. They're there for picnics, biking, walking, children's equipment, even kayaking. And when I see what you've got on there, I see areas in my district that are perfect for that. I know that parks are not gonna ever make money, and people should not expect parks to make money. That's not their reason, okay? And when you start saying, well, we're gonna add this park or that, it's nice, we just added Chatsawitzka thing. People from the Northeast, in my district, are not gonna drive down to Chatsawitzka very often, okay? And it's nice we have a park there because, yes, the people in Sugar Mill definitely deserve to have something down there for them access to the Gulf. Okay, and I was never against Chatsawitzka. I was always for it. You know, the major ballparks that we're looking at that are going to cost money, they're not being built up in where the people are. They're being built in a different area. I'm not against that either, but that's going to be driving. That's going to be roads. It's not going to make it easier on what we're trying to accomplish, which is you say you want to keep things closer where the people are. It's nice to have, we've got a nice big ballpark up off of 491, and it's used. Okay, but it is not in the center of Beverly Hills, and it's not in Citrus Springs. It's just short of Holder, and it's a beautiful facility.
I drove by yesterday, yep.
Okay, so we do have at least one regional that I know of, and we do need more. So I can see we do need to start taking the park impact fees and using it for what it was designed for, getting parks up and open, and they don't have to have lots of stuff. Okay, Citrus Springs is a bird sanctuary. Okay, Citrus Springs actually has the rails to trails thing that you walk. You can go from Dunellen all the way down to Inverness, and it's beautiful. It's well maintained. But we do need to start increasing, because otherwise we're not going to have what people actually came to Citrus County for.
Do you have an acreage or a number in mind? Is it the 5 you were in 2000 or the 4 in 2010 or perhaps less?
I would like to see the 5. If we can get to 5, you know, we're bringing in impact fees. We need to spend it where it's intended to be spent.
And if you don't mind, and I'm not pushing back in any way, and I'm not saying that parks make money, but I have seen ball fields done economic development that there are not a lot of places, and so it takes a leap of faith. There's not a lot of places that can handle tournaments, and I have seen counties add a hotel, like hundreds of millions of dollars in hotels that are support. It becomes its own sort of industry, if you will. I'm not saying you should become the ball field capital of Florida, but there is something to be said about those and where and a reason why those should not be located near a concentrated population that
Right,
very noisy and a lot of
But
traffic.
those can be paid for
But you
with
have.
tourist development tax money, because that's one of the things the TDC money can go for.
Okay.
And I see a need for those, okay, where we have the tournaments. They are the greatest thing in the world, because where I came from, we had them. Okay, we had swimming tournaments at the pool. The city owned the pool, and you paid to go. Okay, so the thing is, yes, they can make a little bit of money or a lot of money, depending. And they are needed. We have the space right now to possibly do something really, really good for our citizens and those in the surrounding areas, that they could come here and spend their money here. So
for the
I
support of that.
appreciate that you've done this extra work. Thank you.
Commissioner Bays.
All great stuff. And yes, our parks need a lot of work. We're in the middle of, I think, having a master plan, master park update right now. I think parks do have an opportunity to make some money. I don't think parks are there to subsidize somebody's business when they're running their leagues or whatever they're doing. I definitely want them there for the kids and things to do, but I have no desire to create parks to let somebody else make a living off of them. This county has, I mean, you've pointed out a lot of stuff in your presentation today. One of the things that to me comes to mind is when you talk about we have a lot of retail that's come online, and what you're seeing is that we have a lack in service. And one of the issues that I believe that this board has got to come to reality with, the demographics need to change. We're very centric to a retiree community, and it's growing. And they have to come to terms with the fact that it's going to grow. But we also need a younger demographic, and parks, and a different style of development, and apartments are all part of that mix that is going to attract the younger demographic here. It's a chicken or egg. Businesses don't come if there's no workforce. We have to start thinking about what we're going to do to attract a workforce and a younger demographic into our community. I appreciate everybody's input, but this board, that's going to be our challenge over the next few years, is how do we attract the younger demographic, the younger family, the workforce, and people aren't going to like it, but I mean, even when we look at the old developments, Citrus Springs, Pine Ridge, the old DRIs throughout Beverly Hills, that's an old style development compared to what's going on in current market conditions. And people don't want 1 acre or 2 acres or 5 acres. And frankly, the more that we have these big developments when they come in, if we do higher density, you can preserve more green space inside of them. And it is better for the economy, or the, what's the word?
Ecology.
The environment. So we have to start thinking outside of the box, and we have to think about our kids. There's a lot of people here, and we turn out some very bright students, but most of those very bright students leave our community and never return home because we're not providing a living wage. So for me, this planning session, that's kind of thinking outside the box, where we're going, what that's going to look like. I think they've laid out a good plan for us, but we have to think futuristic. We probably won't even see it in our lifetime. I mean, we're talking about 52,000 platted lots that have been on the books probably for 30 years, 40 years, that are still not developed. So all this new development that's coming in, people are getting hypersensitive to it. I think when Tuscany was here, I think they said they're looking at maybe 300 homes a year. That's not a lot of homes per year. I mean, it's going to take literally years for the development to go online. But we have to get in alignment with where we're going over the next 5, 10, 15, 20 years. We're not planning for tomorrow, we're planning many years out.
I'll just make a quick comment about the parks. Out in the Central Ridge area, we've got a very large park there. I believe we've still got remaining acreage there that can be developed into other recreational facilities on that park. And also, when the hospital board sunsets very soon, it's my understanding that the county is going to end up with quite a few different parcels that are currently under their control. So whether or not we would use one or more of those parcels to develop a park, or maybe do some land swapping to get a park located into more desirable areas where we want them. When the Suncoast Parkway is finished, we will also end up with some small pieces of property remaining from Turnpike Authority that we can also use in doing some land swapping, so that we can increase our park acreage without going out and purchasing additional parcels at this point. As we've seen, this has been a very expensive presentation. I know you're not telling us this is what you have to do, but this is what it looks like. When you start building 2 or 3 fire stations over the next, 5 years, 10 years, I think 10 years is up to 4 fire stations. Now you gotta man all those fire stations. And by the way, the legislature is fixing to take away millions of dollars in your ad valorem revenue. I think we need to look at increasing our park acreage, but we've got to be very careful about how we do that. And as Commissioner Bays just said, we need to be thinking outside the box. and with a couple of things in motion right now that will put additional vacant property in the county's hands, that'll provide some opportunities for us to change this outlook.
And so I hope your attorney's here. You got to be careful how you use things, but you know there could be friendly persuasion or exactions on larger parcels as they're proposed for development. You know, one of the things that I wasn't planning on saying, but I want to bring up is just be careful. What developers are going to say, well, we have the parks for our people. And there's something to be said for that. It does offset the need, but in the end, the community needs a certain level of service. And if every park is private, you got to ask yourself the value of that. I'm not saying that's happened, but I've seen that happen on other occasions, and just want to make sure you have that on your radar. Not that you didn't, but again, our only goal is to help you and provide information.
So I would agree with Commissioner Davis. I think she might have been the only one to give you a number. That was in my head too. Say that?
Commissioner Barrett did as well.
Oh, okay,
Minimum
then-
of 4 and preferably 5.
Preferably 5.
I would say minimum of 5, and I know that we're not there, but that's something that we should attain to because parks are what make the community enjoyable. And, you know, when I sat with Ramesh yesterday, and again, it was, you know, not due to my circumstances that I was late doing that. It was a wonderful meeting, and we talked about priorities, which mine, like many, or maybe all of you, drinking water. But then, you know, when we were looking at 2 and 3, and I noticed you're all were a little bit different, we talked about how when you preserve some land for water or recharge areas, or you're looking at recreation, it's taking into account some of the other things because maybe the land that you're getting that land, but it at the same time preserved agricultural land. So if that wasn't a priority, I could hit something and it would cover multiple places. And I think like what you're saying with fire stations and parks, we could do something like that. I know Commissioner Barrick was talking about the sports complex, and I think there, you know, besides just tourist money coming in, you know, leagues and things, I think Commissioner Bass said, will help pay for that. But the push, and Commissioner Kennard actually had mentioned something about that, you know, we have fields that we can expand, and we are doing that right now. I brought to the board's attention, and the board, I believe, agreed unanimously about we need more playing fields for kids now. So Parks and Rec's looking at $500,000 just in like light upgrades, and we're looking at taking these extra parcels and making them playing fields. So we are tackling some of the issues now, and I love that it's going by acreage, but it does matter. So if we have lots of bird watching parks or trails, it's great, but are we lacking in playing fields for kids? Because if we are looking at younger people coming here, that's a big deal for them, right? If they're families, what are the opportunities for my children? What can they engage in? And maybe it's sports, or maybe it's the arts, or different things, but we have to have those opportunities for them. So if you're kind of polling, I would say a solid goal is that 5. I mean, you said the gold standard was 10.
Yeah, but
Maybe that's not achievable in most places, but we claim to be the nature coast. And if we start chipping away at that little by little, we're going to lose that. So I think when we're looking at land preservation, we're looking at adding parks, we should not, and even if it can't be, you know, we don't have the money and buy all these properties right now, it's still a goal. It's still on our list to try to achieve at this point. And if we start knocking parks down little by little, I think we're going to lose what makes us so great, and that is being the nature coast.
And just to tag on, not to try to follow up on every one of you, but you had said something that I wanted to point out. So there's 2 levels of service, and I've avoided the second one. The second one speaks to what kind of park is it? Is it swing sets? Is it teeter-totters? Is it bird watching? And that's a very important, that's a second step level of service. So the first one is do enough acreage, and then the second is, okay, but do I have the right mix? That is not my specialty. We're hoping to help you with this side of it, with the number side of the acreage, and identifying strategically what, you know, an order to go in. And while this, in some respects, it's a big number and it feels insurmountable, you know, there's also a need for these pocket parks too. So you own up a lot of lots. There are lands you own right today where you can still start making little bumps in these things. Maybe they start off as a picnic table in a barbecue area and maybe evolve into something a little bit bigger. But you do have a lot of resources, not hopeless at all. And we can certainly use the 5-acre metric and 4 too, just to keep everything in mind, so that you don't wind up, because if we set a level of service, then by law you have to follow that. And I just don't want to set you up for something that you don't want. But I'm happy to pursue an LOS of 5 acres per 1,000.
I've seen that with developments, we have them cut out some green space, but you're right, if we're trying to attract younger families, that green space, I never hear we're gonna have a swing set and teeter-totters and things like that, where young families can walk up the street and their kids can play. That's very important.
I did that a lot with my son when he was little, and it was a lot of fun, so.
Commissioner Davis?
Yeah, so we did the workshops, the public workshops the last 3 nights, and I learned every single night. And one little fun fact came out that apparently Alachua County, granted they have football games, I don't know, whatever that team is there, and they are basically the ball field capital of Florida, so they get tons of travel ball there, right, and other sports. Their sales tax is 60% paid by tourists out of county. Ours is 25%. So I thought that was a pretty stunning number. And Avis Cole told me that he's probably about a year out from us having a significant, theoretically there's some steps to take to having a significant source of revenue that we can bond to build ball fields.
Okay.
So that will be huge.
And if you have concentrations, then keep in mind that at least 1 or 2 hotels near there. I'm not saying you should build them, but don't leave any money on the table, because those parents need a place to stay too, and spend money and so forth. So, okay, we'll proceed accordingly. Thank you very much for your patience.
Thank you.
It's a lot of me, I know. Mr. County Manager, thank you very much. Any final questions? Or?
Nothing for me.
All right, thank you, sir. Take
Thank
care.
you.
God bless.
Okay, it looks like next up is our pavement management transparency portal demonstration. Good morning, Walt. How are you?
Good morning, Chair, Commissioners. Walt Eastman, Technical Services. We heard a lot of discussion today about infrastructure and roadways, and I'm going to kind of pile on top of that with our pavement management portal. Good news and some interesting news. And the good news is our modeling is complete, and we are working diligently to pull together a a pavement management program for this year. We're hoping to have something pulled together by districts or areas, hopefully by the end of the month. But today, the purpose of today is the interesting part. The model came back with information that we did not expect. Staff, we expected this year would be primarily funding spent on our major roadways with milling and paving. That's where we really thought most of the money would go. But that's not what the model came back with. What the model came back with is we have a lot of our local roads that are quite literally at the edge of falling off from bad condition to rebuild condition. And what the model wants to do is preserve those roads, put life back into them before it falls off the cliff, and we have to spend a small fortune to bring them back. So with that, the reason why we wanted to talk with you today is first, to let you know of the work program, what you're going to see, what we're going to be delivering, and also to make you aware of the treatment type that's been recommended for this. Again, based upon the condition of the road, it's not just your standard mill and pave. That's not what these roads are set up for. They're too far gone for that. So what they're recommending is to preserve them, put life back into them with a different material. It's called a multi-surface layer material. And what it does, it'll get you anywhere from 5 years, depending upon traffic load, from 5 years to 10-year window of life back into the roads. And the beauty is, even at that time, we can do another treatment of the same material. So we can extend these roads for many years for a fraction of the cost. And to kind of give you an idea, To do let's say we do a multi-layer of this material, we're looking at I'll round the number, about 70,000 a mile, as opposed to an open grade and pave at 340,000 a mile. So we can do multiple treatments with this technique. The other big thing is based upon the cost. Normally, we would get about 70-ish miles in our paving program where we would do an open grade and pave or a mill and pave. Now, with this technique, we're looking at close to about 200 miles in this year, rather than 70. So that's a massive improvement on our overall system. But here's the thing: it's a change in material to the county. It's not a new technique. It's not a new material at all. It's used throughout the U.S. It's used throughout Florida, but we've never done it here. So we're going to be implementing it here. And knowing it's a change, we all know how people love change. We just want to make everyone aware that it's a different material. It's going to ride a bit different. It's not going to be like 491. It's not going to be the really nice, tight, smooth asphalt surface. But again, it's not intended to be. This is intended to get the road back before it totally fails. And this year, looking at the model, this is a year that it's saying spend this money to preserve this. Future years, it's more of a blend. And I'm not saying that we're not going to put some open grade and pave down, but the majority of it is the multi-surface layer treatment that we're talking about. But we want to make you aware that it is a change of material. It's going to be a change to the public. And we're anticipating phone calls. We want you to be aware you'll probably anticipate phone calls. But to that point, I got to give credit to Charles and Austin and Cindy. They kind of anticipated this, and as a result, they've developed this amazing dashboard that we're going to use as a tool with the public. We're going to refer the public to the website, and I'll have Cindy kind of scroll through, and you'll see what will be out on the website soon.
Okay, so we start with the introduction to pavement management, and which gives them just a little bit of background about what the system is, how the measurements were developed. We have a graph here showing the optimization analysis by Mott MacDonald. Thank you, Kat. That was developed through the modeling system with Mott MacDonald, showing, and you've seen these projections before, about how much needs to be spent to maintain versus actually improving.
And while Cindy's there, just to remind everyone, if you see the graph, the number to basically keep our network where it's at currently, you're looking about $30 million. This year we're working with about 16. So again, we're still not there, but we're trying to economize every dollar we can the best way we can. That's what the model is for.
Excuse me, Walt.
Yes.
Commissioner
Yeah,
Davis.
may I ask a quick question?
Absolutely.
So is this a new recommendation for the multi-layer versus since the last time we had a presentation on roads?
No, with
I mean, have the
preservation.
numbers changed or anything like that?
Oh, no, not at all.
Okay.
With preservation, there's multiple techniques through preservation. And you'll see it in the slideshow. We have a rejuvenate, which is a material that we put on fairly new asphalt, 3 years old. So we just pave a road, we want to rejuvenate it. So there's that one technique. We have multi-layer surface treatment. We have thin overlay. We have scrub seal. We have fog seal. So we have all these preservation techniques, but for the roads that the model's recommending we tackle this year, the multi-layer treatment is the best avenue to go.
And how rough is it and what's the speed limit?
Well, most of them are local roads, so typically 30 miles per hour or less. How rough it is, I think we may have a photo in here of a finished product. If we go with the multi-layer where we have a blend of stone and it's all held together, just like an asphalt road with an emulsified asphalt, it's rolled in. There's placement criteria that our inspectors are going to monitor. So it's not like the slag roads of old where they dumped some hot liquid asphalt and just dumped stone on a road, drove away. This is not that. Like I said, there's actually placement criteria. It's rolled in, it is swept, and as vehicles drive on it, it just locks everything up. And if we put the blend of stone in, you'll see it actually comes up with a fairly nice surface, and it'll be a heck of a lot better than what they have today.
I think you're describing the road I live on. my neighborhood is basically that, I believe.
Okay.
And that's like a chip and seal, correct?
It's similar. Again, the old chip and seal, the scrub or the slag roadway, it was the hot liquid asphalt, they dumped stone on, and that was the end of it. There's different techniques in how this is actually installed.
I just want to reiterate for the public that you said usually like 30 miles, 35 miles out and under.
Yes.
Whereas previously it was everybody got this, I call it the Mercedes-Benz road when it wasn't necessary. And that's what I tell people about this program. I think this board collectively worked together and listened, and we heard, we don't know that our tax dollars are being spent as efficiently as possible on these roads. And I think success through collaboration, we've all answered that call, and your team, and I know Charles has done an amazing job putting this together, so thank you.
And we thank the board for giving us the ability to flex this muscle, because again, it is new to the county, and we love the opportunity.
Commissioner Barrick.
Okay, she compared it to a Mercedes-Benz type road. Okay, that's the more expensive that we are getting. And those are lasting approximately 20 years, correct?
Yes, on
This
average.
is gonna last between 5 and 7 and have to be redone.
But at
So
a,
there is a difference between what we are doing currently and going to this. What do you think of the idea of spending half of the money on this new and half of the money on the one that we're doing now, so that I don't hear from people that my road wasn't redone? Because from what I've seen, you're telling me that we're not gonna actually be redoing like we were. And when I listened to the Mott McDonald, and I heard the one phrase, and a couple people heard it too, there are some roads that'll never get redone. Now, would you like to live on that road that you paid the property taxes, you paid the road things, you paid everything, and your road never got done in 40 years? Or if maybe Mr. Howard lived on that road, I don't think he'd appreciate that, paying all those taxes, expecting my road to be done. And I can see there is a good in what you're doing. Trying to get the most get the best bang for our buck. But I also can see we do have to continue getting our roads up to, we can't do 100% one thing or the other.
right.
I see a possibility of dividing and conquering, and
that-
that's where I want to know, how are you going to divide and conquer?
That was one of the items that was discussed with Mott McDonald during the earlier board meetings. And what you're referring to is a constraint on the model. And once you start constraining it, not letting the model operate and optimize every dollar you all provide to us, you start increasing the backlog. You'll see there's a slide in here. We have a $700 million
We're
backlog.
going to have a backlog no matter what.
Well, but
We don't have enough money coming in. We have the roads that need repair now or yesterday or 2 days ago. So we will never, in my lifetime, see any of this completed. The problem is, if I'm the citizen that's been paying all these taxes, and I've got potholes, they fixed it, to be living on that and saying, why isn't my money doing anything? Why haven't they come to fix our road?
Well-
I have people that said, well, this section of the road was redone, this was redone, and our one little section was skipped. Why?
Well, I think if we optimize the funding that we have, we're going from 70 miles to close to 200. So I think by optimizing it using the model, we have more likelihood of getting to those roads that quote unquote may never be paved by optimizing it.
But what if we did 100 miles plus we did preservation, the 100
Then-
miles with preservation,
Yeah.
and then do the balance for
You're
the
no-
actual roads that are
You're
falling
increasing the
apart?
backlog is what
Yes.
he's saying at
Yeah.
that point. And I know Commissioner Barrick said the Life Mercedes model obviously gives you a longer life, but I believe with this program, even if you do the Chevy model, let's say, you can do less expensive preservation techniques on top of that and make it
Absolutely.
last that 20 years.
Even if we redo this treatment at 70,000, that's a double layer at 70 compared to 340. Yeah, that's a
but-
lot of,
But every 7 years, you paved hers with this new. It's good for, say, approximately 7 years. 7 years now, you got to come back.
yes.
7 years now, you got to come back.
Yeah.
7 years, you got to come back. They would have had to do it 3 times.
I don't know
But
that they're doing the
that's-
same treatment,
if-
though.
whatever treatment they're doing would have to be every 5 to 7 years on your road. So you would get it done 3 times in 20 years.
Still less than 340,000. They're letting
and the
roads
people
fall
that are
off.
living on the roads that don't get the complete redo like they need, are still on dirt. And they're still paying the same taxes as she is, and she's got it redone 3 times.
And I will,
Don't use me as the example.
Well, not you, but I mean, somebody on your road, or in your, that got that treatment, is getting it 3 times in 20 years, whereas this person who get paying taxes, and they needed a different type of treatment, they're not getting anything. But they're still paying the taxes, and you got it redone 3 times. Now, I don't
This
think that's
model will
fair.
help them get that. The people that you're talking about, if we do it the way that we keep doing it, that's what you're saying. The roads are never getting paid. Now that they're paved, now that they're implementing this model, there is a better chance that those never roads start getting a treatment.
If he's gonna do 200 miles a year, and we've got 1,800 miles, how many years is it gonna take? And how many of the roads of the 1,800 miles are below that possible? So how many years is it gonna take you to get that treatment to those roads that can use it? I wanna know that. And then the roads that are left. I mean, it's not a fair treatment. That's why I say if you wanna do something, do it, you're gonna try it, do 50% of the money. Okay? You've got approximately 16 million, so take 8 million, 9 million of it, and do this process on that section.
Madam
Take the
Chair.
balance and
Yes,
do the other.
excuse me.
This was already decided
Yes, sir.
in a public meeting, at a regular county commission meeting where we voted on it. I understand Commissioner Barrett, her position, she argued it then, she was outvoted on it. The board as a whole voted to put 100% of our road resurfacing budget into this model, unconstrained, let the model work. There's absolutely 0 sense in re-arguing this over and over and over again. We're here to listen to what the model is telling us we're gonna do based on the board's decision.
Thank you, sir. And we do have some time constraints, and the commissioners haven't even talked about their strategic planning. So I would say staff's doing exactly what they've been directed to do by this board. If it's underfunded, I guess the rest is up to you at that point and the rest of us. So
I think in this presentation was really about transparency with a model that the public can go to look at. That's what we're
exactly.
really what the presentation
And you
is
want
about.
transparency. That's why I'm arguing what I'm arguing.
Yeah.
Because to be transparent, anybody watching this needs to know that they might be on a road that will never, ever, ever get done. And that's not fair. And that's where I stand. And yes, I agree, we have to continue with your presentation, so
It's fine, I appreciate that. Just going through the slide deck, you'll see, again, the county, it shows the level of service of the roadways with the county. You will notice that the number of total miles has actually increased since our last number, 1844, we're up to 1851. That was a result of several subdivisions coming off of developers' maintenance that were already in the works, and we actually, through this process, discovered some alleys that were unaccounted for. So it's a trued up number now.
In this part of the story map, there is a dashboard that's here. It just allows people to be more interactive, to sort of look at the map and see what the score for their road is. So they can click on any one of these segments in here and be able to find out the rating for their particular road, the PCI index, some other details about the road, and perhaps any sort of recommended treatment that came out through the model. So that gives them that ability, and we have some filtering ability at the top if anyone just wanted to look at where the roads were very good, and then showing you the mileage for each of those types of categories. So if you wanted to filter by commissioner district there to see what the mix of roads for your particular district is. The years last treated. So if you wanted to look at a particular year to see how many miles got treated in that year. You have some filtering abilities at the top there, and then functional classification. So to see by the functional class what the conditions are. So the whole point of this part is just to give people the ability to look at the conditions of their particular road or their particular neighborhood, and just be able to be transparent about the data that's been collected. So that's that part. And then, as Walt said, we have the network backlog in there. We will have some links to some YouTube videos that have covered this topic to just allow people to explore those videos.
And we plan to add to that as we do our work program. We'll have Miles and Kat do some drone footage and videos of our own, so folks can see that being done.
Exactly. And then finally, an FAQ section, so that we can point the public to this dashboard so that they're able to explore and maybe have some of their questions answered in detail and just a standard place that they can go to.
Sin, did you go cover the areas where it had the different techniques?
Yes, let's
We
see.
may-
I'll go back to that, to the treatment types.
There you go.
So we have the treatment types starting here, starting with
That's
the
a photo of
preventative.
Rejuvenate. So if a road is about 2 to 3 years old, we'll go back and these are for local roads. You can't do this on higher speed roads, but on local roads, we would apply Rejuvenate to it, and it brings back the asphaltenes and the multenes. They're all things that are in the asphalt material to help rejuvenate the asphalt because it gets cooked off when it's hot.
Okay. And then these are the preservation treatments, which
Yep.
you described.
And we have an explanation, as you see the photos, we have an explanation of what the technique is, the rough cost, and just to give everyone an idea of what to expect.
Rehabilitation treatments. And then finally, the full reconstruction. So, dashboard. That covers.
And I'll take any other questions y'all may have.
Board? Commissioner
I
Davis?
assume this is on our county website? Accessible
It will be
to everyone?
public after today. We wanted to present it to you first, but yes,
It's
we will.
outstanding work, thank you.
When do we get started?
We're hoping to have the first group of roads out by the end of the month.
Fantastic.
Yes.
And I think just for Wall, I think this process will take how many months to do that many miles of road?
Actually, it's not like the mill and pave, which is a much longer process and technique. This will go relatively quickly. What would you think? 6 months? Yeah, roughly about 6
That's what I'm
months.
being told. Yeah.
And the beauty is we already have a contract in place, the 2024 contract. It's a multi-year contract, so we already have prices and a contractor in place for it.
Outstanding presentation, thank you.
Thank you very
And I
much.
like it that anybody out there can access this. So
Absolutely.
thank you for that.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay.
We're
Do
gonna-
we want to move into commissioner comments, or do you have something else?
Yeah, I'm just going to move on into the commissioner discussion goal setting. I think that's okay.
That would be great. Should we start where we left off at roads? I have actually some things I want to talk about growth and roads. So one's probably a crazy idea, but this is the time to bring them out, right? And one I think is a very sound idea, which maybe I should start with that one first. So when we're talking about growth, and we had 3 presentations relating to that, we understand how important concurrency is at this point. We're bringing it back. And I think park concurrency is going to be very important. I would also like to look at law enforcement, because as we're talking about the need for fire stations expanding, we're not addressing the need for deputies, and I think that that's very important. Growth is not paying for itself, and I think that is the number one complaint of our citizens. We talk about expanding 491, we talk about the need to expand Cardinal, and this is to accommodate more growth, but people are looking at that and say, we're accommodating this growth, but we keep paying for it. So here's something I thought out. I don't have it to pass out because this is my own rough. I was trying to make notes for myself. When we have any type of application that this board would vote on, it would be helpful to me, and I think the entire board, if we had a worksheet put together by staff and it looked at the number of homes or dwelling units, and what does that look like per home price. So With the, is it a $250,000 home on average? Is it 350? Whatever that neighborhood is set to look like. And how much annual revenue would the county get from those homes? And then we could look at the local sales tax. Obviously, we're not doing discretionary tax right now. I just made sure I remembered that number before coming. So for the entire county population, we're about $11.5 million. What that we get from the state for the local sales tax. So what does that look like for this new development home? So that's going to be an annual revenue, right? We have the one-time impact fees, over $13,000 per home. So we have, what is this development bringing in? Then I'd like to see the estimated annual service cost. How many units times we need per how many students? How much does that cost maybe per student if we add? How much more for fire and EMS, for police, for road maintenance, for parks, and wastewater utilities? What is that costing? If we add these people, we need to have a rate of what does that cost per entity. So what are we bringing in? What is it costing? And I think that's going to be helpful. And if it's going to cost the current people that live here, I know my vote is likely going to be a no at that point. I mean, there's a lot of things into play. Mixed development will probably help with that, right? So you have that commercial aspect. How much revenue is the commercial aspect bringing in? What does that charge? For all the things I listed, a lot less, right? Because the services are less. So I think that helps us put together better developments, right? Because then we can start seeing that ratio. How much commercial do we need? How many homes? And we can have a net fiscal impact on the developments that we're doing. People keep saying that the growth isn't paying for itself. I look at our budget. When we put out our budget book, we see a snapshot of 10 years. In 10 years, our budget's increased 109.4% in 10 years. Growth, depending on whose numbers you use, because it's all estimates, maybe between 19 and 22%. So we all talk about managed growth. We don't have a tool to manage it. We can say, okay, that's sprawl or Cardinal, we disapprove that because it wasn't mixed use. So we are doing some things, but for these major developments, we're not getting the real number. We're not seeing that ratio, and that's something I would like this board to agree with, to at least try this and work with staff to get some of these numbers put into a ratio. So that is an idea I hope we can get behind. Commissioner Davis.
Thank you. If memory serves, what Ms. Lynn has said to me several times, I'm sure she'll tell me I'm wrong if I am, is that we are not allowed to use potential tax revenues on making 501 decisions, growth management decisions. We're flat out not allowed. However, Randy Oliver always used to say that I think our break even was about $170,000 on assessed value. So that could be just like an average number, that if we knew what the break even point was on services versus tax revenue, then we could, we would know that but not for a particular development.
We'll have to, she's sitting very quietly in the back of the room. And we don't, I don't need to put you on the spot.
Thumbs up, thumbs down.
That was Commissioner Davis putting you on the spot for that, by the way. But we need to have some mechanism, and whether, like you said, you have it in your head. I would love to see a chart for every development, because maybe that changes per unit. Do you have something that you would like to add to that, ma'am?
We can look into it.
Standard Denise Lynn statement. Thank you, ma'am.
Actually, I think that's not a standard statement. I usually fly off the cuff. I'm being reserved. So
And I would
we'll look into
that,
it and
because
see.
if we do something like this, I want it presented and done correctly. And it will take some time, because I think for staff to some of this would be ratio driven, what that looks like. So, but we really need to understand what managed growth is, and I think that we need a tool to help us do that.
Yeah, sometimes, when you're making land use decisions, you don't always know what's actually going to be platted, right? You're just changing zoning, and especially if you don't have a PUD with it, you're just changing the zoning. You don't know if it's going to be 5 years build out, 10 years, 20 years build out. So it's kind of it'll be interesting to see if staff can put together those kinds of numbers. But
A tool, not obviously nothing's hard and fast when we're up there. There's a lot of things to consider. Like I said, commercial comes into play, but I think that's what I keep hearing. Growth is not paying for itself. How do we make sure that happens? And I think, and Eric's coming up, one of those things is concurrency, and we had a great meeting the other day talking about transportation concurrency. We can bring back a park concurrency. Do you want to speak some more about that?
Eric with Growth Management. That was going to be my first thought as a baseline tool. If you want to determine new growth's impact, is establish a level of service for all of these things that you need. For roads, we're working on that now. For parks, how many acres per 1,000 residents? How many fire stations per 1,000 residents? How many officers per 1,000 residents? And we're going to try to incorporate that in our comp plan update, so that hopefully by the end of the year you'll have a baseline of how much X you want per Y residents. And then when new developments come in, you'll have that figure, and if they're proposing 1,000 new residents, you're going to say, okay, look at this chart. You're going to have to provide the county these different facilities. So I think the first step for the baseline is establishing a level of service, and that way when new applications come in, you know how it impacts the level of service, and then you can make your decisions accordingly.
Thank you.
I think we're on our way.
Okay.
I think we're laying the foundation of what you're asking for.
We're doing better today than we were doing yesterday.
Absolutely.
That's very important for people to know. Anyone else want to comment? Yes, ma'am.
I understand what you're saying, but we cannot get lost completely in that, because I believe that we also have to look at the economic input of what construction does, or our intrinsic value into our community. There's many numbers out there, but they also have a ripple effect as these homes are built. During the construction phase, how many jobs is that? What's the income that gets put back into the community? And then the ripple effect that falls down into restaurants, banks, local institutions, the shopping at the stores, eat at the local restaurants. There's studies out there that show these numbers and the effects of what that has into your community. So I understand when people say growth is not paying for itself, but every time we implement these subdivisions or houses come online, that there's an intrinsic value that goes back into the economy for those developments and what's being built. So I understand what you're saying, but let's not leave out the full economic impact of what that means to our community.
I would agree with you, but at the same time, so the doing better in the economy is important, but when you add X amount of homes, but then the sheriff is saying we need more deputies, and the chief is saying now we need more fire stations, and there's not enough ballparks for the kids, and we need all of these things, and there's no way to pay for it, and that's why the concurrency will be helpful and important. I think that we need a bigger picture of what it's costing. And
But I guess to my point is, if you shut the door today and said we never built another thing, you're still there. I mean, I can tell you during 2009 on, construction stopped. We lost a ton of talent in this community. They all left. We struggle to keep pace today with enough people to fill these jobs. Our unemployment rate is one of the highest in the state, if not the highest. So there is an economic component to development, because that brings in a lot of jobs, and there's a lot of money spent inside your community after that.
anybody else?
Yeah.
Commissioner Barrick.
I do like your idea.
Thank you.
If it is legal, we'll wait to hear back from the attorney. I really would like to see something like that. When she says the effects to the community because of the builders, some of these days, everybody needs to get out there and go see what's being built. See who is doing the building. We did lose a lot of our people from our county. And what we have coming in are pickup trucks with 5 and 6 people that have North Carolina plates on them. They're not spending their money here. They're sleeping in the pickup trucks. You just need to go out there and see it, okay? And that's the biggest thing. We need to open our eyes and take the blinders off and say, yeah, we've got this being built. Who's building it? It's not our citizens. You know, and a lot of the developers are not even Citrus County developers. You've got a lot from Orlando, okay? So we're not bringing in the sales that you would anticipate if you lived in Citrus County and you were a builder and you were, say, a carpenter or a roofer or whatever. They're going to spend the money in Citrus County because they live here. But I see this in my community, and I can drive around and say, well, there's the pickup truck, and there it is in the forest tonight, and there it is in that forest tonight because, you know, maybe the cop came along and said you need to move. But when I see this, I want to see what is the impact. And I think this would be a good tool to tell me, okay, yeah, it would be good to do this, or maybe we should reconsider, or, you know, something. But it would give a better idea and a better than just say yes or no. And I like what you're proposing, if it's legal.
Thank you. An idea to start. Anything else? Well, then you're really probably going to think the next idea is crazy. Since we're just throwing out and seeing what sticks, when we sat down at the preliminary budget hearing for this budget cycle, the budget was balanced. And if you remember, when we went through that, $7 million was taken out for road maintenance. The one thing that everyone wanted us to prioritize under public safety, of course. And this board did the right thing. We go back and put it back in. And we were okay. You know, there was money. I pointed out some places where there was money, and we have a new fiscal director and found the rest, which was fantastic. So possibly even before this next preliminary budget hearing, I would like to see what it looks like to put that even higher as a priority. We're never going to catch up with the backlog of roads if we don't take a look at what does that look like when that priority gets bumped up, which obviously last budgeting it got thrown down and we put it back up. So maybe we take $30-40 million, make that a priority, put that into the budget. That's where we're starting, and I would like to see what that does to our current budget as is, and maybe forecasting for what growth is bringing in. The other thing I thought maybe we could do, I'm not sure what the true up numbers look like at this time, but for some of that backlog, taking any true up money and then putting it on that problem that's such a small amount, but we need to start addressing this problem. This problem takes money. We can't just increase the budget by that much. That would hurt our citizens. But I think we could see what a budget looks like when we're prioritizing this backlog. So I'm going to just let that land where it lands. Yes, ma'am.
Actually, re-looking at how our taxes are done was one of my priority items, and it was specifically for roads. And I think this is something that Commissioner Bays has also talked about on the dais before. Our briefing from staff was to say that to do it's 70 million, right? Backlog walk, is it 7?
700.
700.
No, I mean 70 million a year, 70 million a year.
45.
30 to 40.
30 to 40.
I think that's to keep it,
So-
wasn't it 65 million to make an improvement?
To make an improvement,
45 to
right.
kind of keep it a tiny bit of improvement, 30 million to
Well-
keep us as is.
Well, it was a 10 years as an MSTU to get us to where we are then able to spend just 20 million to keep a high level of service throughout our entire network. That's what I very strongly remember that briefing, and I assume all of us got the same one. All of this obviously very much depends on what happens in Tallahassee this year with ad valorem. And we, just like we do with stormwater and fire, we can set the MSTU levels based on size of residence and commercial and, ag and all that other stuff. And so it can be weighted more towards commercial because the commercial wants to be here with all of our rooftops going in. And so it could be fairly, I think you had floated 400 a year. And I think I'm the least financially able to absorb that because I'm single of the five of us. And trust me, I don't want to do 400 a year. But if it makes it that I'm going to be supporting 20 million a year in today's dollars 10 years from now versus 65, 70 million, I would assume 700 million backlog over 10 years is 70 million a year, right? So that puts this county on a much better, and the residents much better financial footing in 10 years. But $400 a year is also nothing to sneeze at for a lot of people, but there's also carve-outs for poverty, correct?
Yes, there would be.
Yes. So that's one of my priority things that I wanted to discuss
So
today.
an extra tax of 400 a year?
But here's the deal. We would take the ad valorem would come off. Now, the brilliance of this idea is that a lot of residents don't trust us. They don't understand. They don't dig into it enough to understand that the gas tax is a fraction of what we need, a tiny fraction, right? So what Walt had suggested was to take the messaging is we're behind on guardrails and bridges, so we use 100% of the gas tax to catch up on guardrails and bridges, right? Which makes it very easy. The gas tax is for that, right? The MSTU is to catch up and make us much more fiscally responsible 10 years from now, right? And then all of those roads that are never going to get paved, repaved, would actually get paved. The one aspect to that would be whether the market research shows that people want roads on a local option sales tax, right? So then that would reduce the 400. Then we've got a communication issue that now we've got two taxes for roads, and that complicates things, but whatever the people want is what the people should get.
I respect your thought on that. I do not see, like, my retired senior citizen parents cannot have $400 extra on their taxes plus whatever, however
We just have to accept the reality then that we're going to have bad roads. And the number I believe was $425 a year additional maintenance on a vehicle for driving on bad roads. Okay, so then, that's very hard to sell to the public. Very hard. I understand the political issue here, I do. But we do have to face the reality of where we are and being this far behind on road resurfacing. And road resurfacing also has a lot to do with if new companies come in and they take a look at our community, what is the quality of the community? Are their employees going to want to live here? Do we look like a community on the move, or does it look like one that has skipped maintenance decades and decades? So all of these things are interwoven, and it's just not an easy thing to unravel and fix.
Commissioner Barrick?
Okay, I live in a realistic world. If I didn't have this job, I have Social Security, and that's it. A lot of the people in my district, if they didn't have part-time jobs like at Walmart or CVS, they would have just Social Security. $400 is an out of the world ask for a lot of the people. We have a program for people that don't make a lot of money in our county, but to say, well, we're going to do an MSTU at $400 per, that it's an unrealistic number for our citizens who are on disability. If we take in the veterans that are on 100% disability, they don't pay any of that. Okay, so there are a lot of people that would not be paying that. I watched a presentation by Mr. Howard, and it said the average income for the citizens of this county is $69,000 a year. That's the average income. That means so many are below it, so many are above it, but that's the average. If you're on Social Security, you're nowhere near $69,000. Okay? And I know that. How can we expect people that are making that little bit of money to pay? And that's where when I look at things, I say, there's no way. Not that many residents make 100,000 or more. Okay? And we have to be realistic as commissioners and understand it is got to be done, but slowly. The referendum with the 1 cent, I think the people can afford, because a lot of them do go up to Ocala. They do go down to Brooksville. So they are already paying it. It's just that they would be paying it in Citrus County, so we would benefit. And yes, it's only 23 million. And I say only 23 million. That's a lot of money. But I agree, we should prioritize and put roads. If we put 30 million aside for roads, and we got the referendum, that would give us 53 million. That would be very, very close to what Mr. Eastman is suggesting. And it would get us what we need. So the thing is, we have to be positive about where the money can come from. The 1 cent is a good possibility because they're used to that. But if we want to turn around and give it MSTU of 400, we will have a lot of bankruptcies and a lot of people going under that it's not fair to them. They came here to retire. They didn't come here to be fleeced of all their money because of the roads, because commissions in the past didn't maintain what needed to be maintained. But we do have to, as a commission, bring it up as fast as we can to where it should be. So I agree that we should prioritize. This is 30,000, and now you work the rest of the budget around it. And I think we should be able to get the 30,000. If not, there's something wrong. If I keep seeing all these cash
30
carries-
million.
Well, 30 million. But the thing is, it's like every year there's 30 whatever cash carry forward. And the program proved that. We've got the cash carry forward. If we've got that much in cash carry forward every year on a consistent basis, we should be able to put that 30 million to the roads initially and say, okay, now give me the rest of your budget.
We'll have to see what that looks like. Commissioner Davis.
Yeah, I just want to respond to that. First of all, for all the media that is listening or writing, I really don't want the headline to be that I'm going to tax everyone $400 a year. That is not the case whatsoever. So Walt said that we could, and not if I'm correct, that this can go by square footage, right? So the really big homes on the water are going to be paying, so 400, I believe, was average.
If I could.
And it could be way lower than that. We could do more on the business, and it depends on sales tax, and then
That's where I was heading.
and you get ad valorem savings and
Yeah, once we
And
get
maintenance savings.
NGN on board, if we're going to go this route, there's no need to get married to the $400 number. It all depends upon if you want the tiered approach. It all depends upon how you build the tiers. That's what I was just going to come up and say. So it's not necessarily 400. It can be whatever's going to be palatable, and then you have to adjust your tiers appropriately. And of course, I think it would be best to tie it to some type of an impact to make it proportionally fair.
Thank you. Well, Commissioner Kennard.
Yeah, I'm going to attempt to nose up here and get out of the weeds a bit. My suggestion for our strategic planning meeting today are these concepts, throwing an idea out there, such as yours, that I want to see us set the first budget on road resurfacing at $30 million, build the rest of the budget around that. That's what I would like to see us work towards this year. And then in our regular meetings, that comes forward as an agenda item or a workshop, and then we get into the weeds. We are never going to get through ideas that each of the five of us have today by dinner time tonight. I'm not in a rush to get out of here, but I'm just saying we are getting
right.
very, very deep into the weeds and the details on just concepts. Something, you yourself said, this is a crazy idea, but I want to throw it out there.
Right, that's what we should be
And-
doing together.
and- Yes, and staying at that 30,000 foot level rather than you know, is it per square foot? Is it gonna be, you know, if we go down the MSTU route, you know, if that's something that someone on the board wants us to look at, then I think that should be an idea, a concept that's thrown out today, and then it gets scheduled for a workshop, and then we can get into the details specifically on that, where staff is prepared with more backup and what that would ultimately look like.
Well said. Do you want to move into an idea?
I'm still listening.
Okay. Those are two main ones. I have some small things I want to hear from everybody, and we're getting low on time. So, anyone else have
I
some?
have a quick one.
I was
Yes,
gonna say,
ma'am.
if I could just inject real quick, I just wanted to put this up. This is actually from input from the board, several board members. But I just want to make sure I did not forget to put this out here. But these are some things that several commissioners brought forward to me as well. Obviously, the County Road 491, something you all took action on a few weeks ago, which I think would obviously be a target for 2026, make progress on that. These are ones that some of the board members brought before me.
I could, on two of those things. One, because I had said at a meeting repeatedly about workforce housing definition. Just for you all to know, I really, on self-research, got down in the weeds looking at that. And then, and not to all work out today, but some of those numbers, the percent of AMI on what workforce housing looks like in the state of Florida and what rent should cost. I mean, we're actually kind of there in the county. I mean, but I still think that would be helpful, again, for new development. And mobility fee analysis, although I do believe knowledge is power, we were on a very great call, myself, Mr. Howard, staff, and FDOT, you know, we asked about our increased impact fees versus mobility fees, and then them helping us with concurrency that will happen without the need for legislation. And they said impact fees, the way we're going, is the best way to go. Pairing that with concurrency instead of the mobility fee. So just throw out that tidbit of information.
Madam Chair?
Yes, sir.
I'll chime in on that. I like the idea of developing a specific definition for workforce housing, what that looks like. And then again, I would say that should come back in maybe a workshop or a longer discussion period of time in a normal county commission meeting, because I think we need to have options for, all right, I think that we all agree that we need more workforce housing. The county's not gonna get involved in building that. How do we incentivize builders to look at that? What is the barrier to them going, hey, you know what? Rather than a 55-plus community, let's look at how we can make a specific area, you know, greater workforce housing. How can we build more workforce housing? Get them to do it rather than the county getting involved in that. But I think that's a discussion again that we can have in a workshop or a regular normal county commission meeting. The mobility fee analysis, I would completely agree with you. It's pardon the pun, but it's a road I've gone down several times and looking at. Actually, Mr. Howard and I met with a guy, actually a group. I think he had one or two others there, and we had some staff there as well, who has done a number of mobility fee plans for communities around the state. And where we landed at the end of that meeting was mobility fees are very helpful in that you can move that money around to different parts of the county, regardless of what area of the county it was collected in. But it's also used for operation of transit services, things like that, which I don't think that's what we're looking at. What we're looking for are ways that we can build and maintain our roads. Now, maybe mobility fees can be used for maintaining the roads as well. But what I think where we all landed at was essentially what you just stated was that you've got your impact fees. That's probably the best avenue to go forward with this right now. So I would agree with you on both of those things.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Kennard, I've actually submitted the workforce housing definition, so I'm glad you like it. The one I wanted to talk about, since we've already discussed that, is the homeless shelter. So hopefully y'all read Nancy Kennedy's article, and the email that I sent to her showed my work. You remember math class? But we spend currently over $2 million a year on homeless without solving the problem. We are warehousing for a cost of $1.75 million on jail for 55 inmates a day at 87 and change per day. That's the 55's the rolling average. So then the additional cost, that doesn't even count for fire rescue and sheriff's department, neither of which we're comfortable putting a number to what the cost is. But we know it is a cost of dealing with those arrests and taking them to the jail and so forth. It does, the 2 million does include the clerk's cost, which she was able to ascertain or estimate very closely. And then both hospitals, we reimburse Medicaid for uninsured costs in our hospitals, and the homeless use the ERs as primary care. And they estimate between 3 and 4% of their ER cost of that is homeless, of the people that are coming into the ERs. So that number is in there, and that brings it up to 2 million. And then I just said over 2 million because of fire rescue and sheriff. So I would like to propose that we take 40 to 50% of that figure, which puts it at either $1 million or somewhere. Anybody want to do the math? My brain is they're just crapped out on me, but 40% of that, 60. How much would that be? 600,000? Am I doing the math right? It's very hard to do that on camera. I'm usually pretty good with it, but put that towards Catholic Charities. They will raise the money and build the facility, but they will not do it unless we have given them an annual stipend. And PFM, our financial planning firm, did say that they could actually get the very defined cost benefit analysis to having our first homeless shelter.
It wouldn't be our first homeless shelter. There's homeless shelters in Citrus County.
First, very large, that is big enough to take on all the homeless, because we have hundreds, if not thousands, of homeless.
Commissioner Barrick.
When I
Commissioner
looked at the
Kennard
list-
had his card up.
Oh, I am so sorry, if
Yeah,
you
let
don't
him-
mind. I'm
let
sorry,
him go.
Commissioner.
It's quite all right.
Can't reach the card.
One of the things I would like to see us make some real progress on this year is a shelter, a partnership with Catholic Charities on a shelter. I'm not prepared to go to a funding level, though, with them. I've not heard them say that they're not going to move forward without some sort of annual stipend. I'm sure they would love to have that, but I don't know that that's something that I want government to get involved with. So I would like to see us move forward. Let's see what that looks like. If that involves the county producing a piece of property where they can do that, great. But we've been talking about it now for a year anyway. I'd like to see us make some real progress there.
Commissioner Barrick.
All right, the Citrus Springs Park acquisition is the one that I
Can we
brought.
finish? Because I have some comments about that. I thought you wanted to.
Oh, this is gonna be
comment
the 5, okay? And that's the one I brought up because that's the Riverview Park that does, I'd like to use all impact fees. Number 2, the expansion, it says 486 to Hampshire. It should say Pine Ridge Boulevard to Hampshire, so that's a typo, okay? As for the homeless shelter, we already give out a fortune, and Commissioner Davis said how many millions that we put out for getting people. I do not agree with picking and choosing winners and losers as to, we're going to go with this Catholic Charities, we're going to go with the Protestant, we're going to go with the Jewish. What we want to do is we want to say, okay, you want to have a shelter here, fine. You bring us the plans, you bring us what you got, and you build it. Now, if you need extra things like food, maybe we'll subsidize food or whatever, or blankets or, but I can't see us picking and losing who we're going to support. And I have gone to the homeless shelters. I did take the bus trips, and I saw what they did. And, it's nice what they did, but I can't see us having those little things. If we're going to do something, we're going to do it the right way, and we're going to let them build it on their property. Okay? Maybe we give them they should be tax-free because they would be, tax-free people. The mobility fees, impact fees are fine. As for the workforce housing definition, I haven't seen the definition yet. I don't know where it's at or why I don't get copies, but I'd love to be able to read a workforce housing definition.
We come up with the definition.
Oh, we're going to come up with it, but she said she had it and he said he's read it. So, I don't know what's going on here, but I would love to see what you've written. So that
I didn't say I had it. I said that we need one as a county. Did not say that we have it.
Then I'm not listening correctly because I could swear that Kennard said he read it. Commissioner Kennard said he read and he liked what it had. So I don't know, maybe I'm wrong, but I thought that's what I heard. So anyhow, those are the 5. And yes, I think we need to move on.
You did actually, may I?
Go ahead.
You did actually more or less agree with me on the Citrus Hope because you said subsidize food and things like that. That's what the stipend is. And to be clear, for those listening to do the math, Catholic Charities averages $26 to $30 per day per resident. We have 55 people in jail that are, as our jail monitor says, are serving out life terms 3 months at a time. They shoplift, they're vagrant, they're whatever, they get picked up, they go get 3 meals a day and a warm place to sleep for 3 months, then they're spun out, then they reoffend and they go back in. The whole point is to interrupt that cycle because there are a large number of homeless that don't want to be homeless. There are certainly some that like that lifestyle out in the woods, or they're mentally ill or whatever. So the whole idea of this is not to, I am completely on board with Commissioner Kitchen in the way back, taking nonprofits off giving a stipend to nonprofits. That was the correct thing to do. My point here is that this is already costing taxpayers $2 million a year. And the reason I came up with, and by the way, it's 800,000, I just, very hard to do math on camera. If we take some portion of that, say 700,000, 750, then I would expect to see a drop in our jail costs. And that does have to be monitored, absolutely, because I am a fiscal conservative and I'm looking for this to be revenue neutral or eventually work towards being a taxpayer savings. That's the whole point I'm looking at this. And Maggie Rogers, to your point, Commissioner Kennard has told me over and over again, I am not going to open a shelter only to have it close in a year due to not being able to make ends meet. So they do need to know that we have some skin in the game. Throw out a number, and we can negotiate with her for that. I do believe where the lowest number they have is $26 per day per resident is in Pinellas Hope, which is now nearing its 20th anniversary, and they have zero food budget because the community provides every single meal there. And as I've said over and over again, this is one of the most giving communities I know. I mean, that's why I decided to try to serve it. And if we can't get all of our charities, churches, and so forth to do all of the meals, then I'd be really surprised. And that would further reduce what the county has to do. Thank you.
Commissioner, I know that you've been a big proponent of them, and I understand where your heart is, and that is the part that I like. I've been in that space my entire life, as has our sheriff been. And until the sheriff of this county comes to this podium or a regular one and agrees with those statements, I'm not going to be on board, because as much as you compare it to the jail, having those conversations with him and law enforcement and knowing the space, typically to expand that, the numbers for jail and need for law enforcement and crime go way up, not down. It doesn't save the taxpayer money. It increases the need for services. We have some fantastic homeless shelters here. Sanctuary Mission actually is expanding. They're on their way, should be done by the end of the year, building a new men's house to accommodate that. And these people in the current shelters are people, not, like you said, not wanting to be homeless. They're working on our lives, whether it's rehabilitation from substance abuse or domestic violence, whatever for the particular shelter. It's people saying, I don't want to live like this, or the path, helping families, keeping that family unit together. I have also had conversations in the past with Miss Maggie, and it was scary to me. And I said that from the dais. She told me she will never have a tent empty. She couldn't explain that to donors. It was very important for the donors, and that she would make sure those are filled. So to me, that's bringing people from outside area. And I said, well, what do you do with the overflow if they're filled? Well, I wouldn't let them stay here. So they would live out in the woods still. Exactly the problem that we have now. So we're not getting rid of the problem. Catholic Charities has a lot of money, and a lot of property. They can make this happen. And I'm fine. If they expand a shelter and they help in their way, just like the Path and the Sanctuary and CASA and different ministries, okay. And maybe they need to come to us, and maybe there's a zoning change and there's things that we can support them. But as Commissioner Barrick said, choosing one over another, I'm not on board with that. And again, it's the aspect of bringing in extra to our community. And listen, the people in those communities talk, and it gets back to other nonprofits. And like I said, I've been in that space most of my life. Citrus County is known, go there, they will always help you. People will come into this county because I can get food, and I stay very close to the church that provides space for the cold weather shelter. And, we had that conversation. Well, I tell them, what's the incentive? If you're going in the woods and you're taking the food and you're taking the services and you can live this lifestyle, and we're just going to support you. And I understand as a Christian what they say back. We don't disagree with you, Diana. That you're probably right. But our hope is just to spread the message of Jesus and then let him change their life. So two different goals that I understand and respect. What I would like to see, if we wanted to provide some help, is I asked for numbers from the cold weather shelter. How many people are going to that are not homeless? They don't have heat, they have inadequate heat, or it's just completely too expensive to heat. That's where I would like to start and see if we can connect them with our own housing programs or some nonprofits to help them. Another portion of those numbers I heard were people coming in for warm meals. So they're not staying, they're coming in, they're eating, they're getting what they need, and they're leaving back. So, I think of R.J. Fontana, who's doing a fantastic job at Family Resource Center. And I knew his mother and worked with her for years, the great Ginger West. And she wanted to put showers in Hernando and help the homeless. And she said, if they cannot shower or get their laundry done, how are they supposed to get jobs? We want them to move on in life. I got behind her. So did many of us in that space. And she was able to provide that service for years. RJ came in decades later to continue the work and the mission of his mom and said, you know what I discovered? All those years later, we're helping the same people. They're not getting jobs. And who are we not helping? Our neighbors. And I love that that's who he says. He doesn't have customers or clients, they're our neighbors. And he said, we stopped doing that. We stopped spending all that money on them using our water and our resources to support their lifestyle and getting no help. And then we have these families living all around us that may be in homes, but they're on that brink, right? And I think as a community and a county, instead of bringing in to help many people that aren't looking for that life change, there's so many people that are getting help that do want that life change, and I'm 100% on board, not only helping them and helping our neighbors, as RJ would say, but even if we had to build a program, that's what I would be 100% on, helping the residents of Citrus County that are struggling. But to bring in all these other people, like I said, the sheriff would be the one to convince me because I know what this looks like. I've lived in that space for a long time. Anybody else? Do you have anything? Not today? Okay, Mr. Howard, do you have any final words?
Leave you with a quote. How's that? It's right here, the Citrus by the Numbers. Just encourage the public to look at that. A lot of great data information in there. It's available online. And I'm going to leave you with this quote: coming together is the beginning, keeping together is progress, working together is success. And like I tell the public, I've seen the end of the movie, and Citrus County wins. So
Can you go back to your slide, though? Isn't the number in there where we statistically are by the statewide average?
Or
Your
like-
Citrus by the Numbers, is that?
I don't know if they'd have to go on there and they can open that up, but you're talking about like what specific data?
The tax rate, like where we
Yeah,
stand?
we're about 15.4% or 15.6% below the average. Yes, but there's some. I think some of those numbers are in there, but there's presentations that I do across the county that show that data just came out in 2025 by the Florida Tax Watch, and there's a variety of data points in there that you can look at that we are below. Yes.
And before we end, I would like to just share to the community and to everybody here and to my fellow board members. I try to explain it to the community. I believe that this board has one goal, and we understand that we need to save tax dollars, and we understand that we have a lot of needs in the community. And we may have even different levels of priority what those needs look like, and it's all about balance. So we have the same goal. We may have different ideas of how to balance those goals, but whatever we agree upon, fantastic. What we disagree upon, I do believe in the upcoming year that we can find collaborative solutions to look at the things that everybody finds that are important and move in a forward direction. So I'll end it how I began it. I look forward to working with all of you, and I do believe that there is success in collaboration, and I believe we are set on our way to have a fantastic year. So thank you all for attending. It's 12:05, and this meeting's adjourned.